Chapter 84. Under an office building in the suburbs of Desya, a large number of disheveled migrant workers stood at the entrance of the building. Some of them were holding flags in their hands, some had ribbons tied to their heads, some had "Injustice" written on their clothes, and some were shouting slogans. There were about several hundred of them, blocking the front and back of the office building. Blood for blood! Arrears of wages! The security guards in the building looked at each other and were on alert, fearing that these migrant workers would break in at any time. An experienced security guard looked very relaxed and casually comforted him. "Don't worry, they won't dare to mess around. Our boss has a powerful background. These workers can forget about getting their wages back. The police will come in a while and disperse them." A new security guard heard this and boldly asked, "I heard that some of them died, so they gathered here?" The old security guard denied, "You can't talk nonsense about this." But after a few seconds he sneered and said, "But I heard that a group of thugs drove a container truck and rushed to our company's new land and caught a few of the leaders of the strike. Those workers are still missing." The other security guards sucked in a breath of cold air. They were once again shocked by the ruthlessness of the big boss above them, even though they already knew some of the boss's deeds before coming to work. And their big boss was standing on the 18th floor of the office above them, looking at the migrant workers gathered at the entrance through the floor-to-ceiling glass. Huang Haitao, with his big belly, said with disdain, "A bunch of bumpkins, how dare you play rough with me?" He was the chairman of the Haitao group, Huang Haitao. People who were familiar with him knew that when he first came out more than 20 years ago, he started with a game engine room and gathered a group of brothers. Then, he took this group of brothers and targeted the demolition business, especially for those large real estate companies to drive away the stubborn residents and lower the relocation fees. He also did a lot of things like murder, arson, intimidation, and blackmail. But Huang Haitao was a man who knew how to adapt to the circumstances and didn't ask for a high price. His wife's family was also in the Urban Construction Bureau, so he had connections with the police. Plus, he also knew how to conduct himself, so he had never stopped paying all kinds of filial piety. Therefore, in the past 20 years, not only had he not been arrested, but he had also taken advantage of the soaring housing prices to expand his business. After establishing the Haitao Group, he had made a lot of money by exploiting the relocation fees and delaying the wages of the construction workers. However, he no longer cared about Lei Feng's affairs. His former subordinates were all handed over to his younger brother, Ahai. Huang Haitao raised this group of people to do his dirty work. Huang Haitao thought for a moment and asked the male secretary beside him, "Where's Ahai? How is he doing?" The secretary hurriedly replied, "Master Hai hasn't called back yet. He said that he wants to send him into the sea to help Master Tao regain your faith." "This silly boy," Huang Haitao said. "He's really getting more and more arrogant. Fortunately, he's dealing with a bunch of bumpkins this time. If he really offended someone, even I would have to be his scapegoat. I'll teach him a lesson when he comes back. Call him later and tell him to teach him a lesson and let him go. Don't cause trouble for me." Halfway through Huang Haitao's speech, the office door was suddenly pushed open. A tall man walked in, and behind him stood a beautiful woman in a blue and white uniform. "Who are you? What are you doing? Who let you in?" the male secretary shouted. Lianping looked at Huang Haitao unscrupulously. When he passed by the male secretary, he could only see that the male secretary's hand seemed to shake slightly. A black shadow seemed to flash by, and the secretary hit the ground. Behind him, Li Qian closed the door of the office. Huang Haitao didn't panic in the face of danger. He calmly looked at the two and said, "What do you want?" At the same time, his hand slowly reached for the alarm under the table. Lianping didn't say anything. He directly grabbed the office table and threw it out. It crashed through the glass window of the building and smashed downstairs. There was a loud bang, and then countless people's voices came from downstairs. Lianping looked at Huang Haitao, whose legs were trembling nonstop, and said, "Pay back the salary you owe. And for the people who were squeezed by you in the past, transfer the money to their accounts according to the list within a month." Li Qian behind him came forward, and stuffed a list of names, accounts, and the money they were owed into Huang Haitao's hands. Huang Haitao picked it up and looked at it, and said unwillingly, "I don't have so much liquid capital. You will drive me to death." "Drive you to death?" Lianping looked at Huang Haitao coldly, slowly walked to his side, and then squeezed his wrist, and said, "You know what? I can let you sell your company, your car, your house, and your high-end antiques, jewelry, calligraphy, and paintings. Then, I'll give all the money to your employees and victims. Then, I'll kill you." Huang Haitao felt that his wrist was almost broken. What was more frightening was Lianping's threat, which made his back break out in cold sweat. "Do you understand?" With a crack, Huang Haitao's wrist was crushed. He was afraid that this hand would be crippled for the rest of his life. He screamed like a pig being slaughtered, and then he kept shouting, I understand, I will sell my property and transfer the money to them. Someone will check on you in a month. If you miss a cent, I will do it according to the plan." After that, he left with Li Qian without looking back, leaving Huang Haitao lying on the ground in pain. By the way, Lianping suddenly turned his head. "Where are your brother and the others?" "I don't know." Huang Haitao saw him frown, and he was so scared that his face turned pale. He trembled and said, "But they will go back to their original place in a few days, 234 9th Avenue. Lianping nodded and left, satisfied. Half an hour later, the police arrived at the office building and drove away all the migrant workers. When they were about to enter Huang Haitao's office, they were all stopped and not allowed to enter. A few days later, the people who asked for their salaries found that there was an extra sum of money in their bank account, which was the same amount as the salary they did not get. Early in the morning, Lianping was standing on the lawn, bare-chested, wearing only a pair of shorts. Every time he gathered his qi in his right hand, he would throw a straight punch with all his strength. The wind from the punch would spread in all directions, blowing Li Qian's hair into a mess. Li Qian held a newspaper and said, "According to the surveillance video on the highway, Ahai and the others will be back tonight. Huang Haitao has already paid back all his salary. As for the money he owes for so many years, he is still collecting it. It seems that he is selling his villas and most of his collections. That list is based on his limit. In this way, he will be a pauper after leaving the company." Lianping asked while practicing, "What about the others? Did they do what we told them to do?" Li Qian flipped through the newspaper and said, "Basically, they did it, but Lai Wenyong from the Golden Eagle Group and Yang Chang from the Bale Group did not transfer the money." Lianping thought for a moment and recalled, Lai Wenyong? The guy who swindled fund users' money, engaged in insider trading, falsified accounts, and swindled pensions? Yang Chang. Well, the guy who repaired the unfinished building, used oil barrels as load-bearing walls, collapsed Hope Primary School, and crushed 5 primary school students to death? I think he was also born a virgin, and he even killed his own wife? Yes, that's right. What happened to them? Did they escape or fight back? Lianping said lightly. Lai Wenyong booked a flight to Dongyang City tomorrow morning. Yang Chang paid a group of people with a lot of powerful firearms to guard him every day. With Ahai's group, it seems that you will be busy tonight. Li Qian smiled. I hope there are a few ability users among them. After saying this, Lianping didn't say anything else and closed his eyes. More and more psyche qi gathered on his right fist, and it became as deep as hell, like a black hole, crazily swallowing everything. Lianping suddenly threw a punch, and a huge amount of qi, centered on his fist, exploded into the sky under his intentional control. The clouds above Lianping's head tumbled, and a ray of sunlight shone on Lianping's body through the broken clouds. Lianping, who was illuminated by the sunlight, looked like he was painted with a layer of golden paint, giving people a sense of tranquility and serenity. It was a sharp contrast with the violent punch just now. Li Qian quietly retreated with a look of admiration, leaving Li Anping alone on the grass to continue practicing. After finishing his morning practice, Li Anping sat on the sofa in the living room, browsing the web while holding the newspaper Li Qian gave him, processing the information on it. During this time, through Li Qian's ability, he had already monitored more than 3,000 rich businessmen, officials, ordinary employees, civil servants, cleaners, police, and other people in Tianjin. But it was far from enough. Not only did he want to eliminate evil, but he also wanted to become stronger through hunting, especially devouring ability users who committed crimes. Originally, Xia Dragonfinch had a lot of ability users, but Li Anping didn't plan to go against Xia Dragonfinch and hunt their ability users. This would cause all of Xia and the 4 level 5 ability users, including Xia Laikong, to become enemies with him. So now he was only monitoring ordinary people to find traces of ability users who were involved in crimes. Just as he was thinking this, Li Anping heard the voices of a man and woman approaching. He put the newspaper back into his arms, and concentrated on looking at the tablet in his hands. Xia Yunyun brought Song Tian into the living room, seeing Li Anping lying on the sofa and surfing the web, her sharp eyebrows wrinkled. "You don't have anything to do? Lying here all day?" Seeing that Li Anping didn't reply to her, still minding his own business and surfing the web, Xia Yunyun scolded in a low voice. "Mud can't support a wall." Then she smiled at Song Tian and said, "Wait for me here, I'll come down after changing." Song Tian nodded in agreement, watching Xia Yunyun go upstairs, and then sat down beside Li Anping. At this time, Song Tian looked at Li Anping with a faint trace of disgust. Recently, when he was dating with Xia Yunyun, he would often hear her mention Li Anping, and praise Li Anping for being very hard-working. And the two seemed to be getting more and more familiar with each other. The biggest problem was that they actually lived in the same house every day. All of this made him feel a trace of a threat. He took out a check from his arms and handed it in front of Li Anping, saying expressionlessly, "Leave this mansion, pack up and leave tonight, and this check is yours. Tonight when I send Yunyun back, I don't want to see you again." After saying this, he didn't care if Li Anping answered, or if he thought that the other party wouldn't have a second answer. He just put the check on the sofa, and then walked to the stairs to wait for Xia Yunyun. Until the two of them went out again, Song Tian didn't even look at Li Anping once, as if the Li Anping in front of him didn't even have the qualifications to be looked at. Chapter 85. Even after Song Tian and Xia Yunyun left, Li Anping did not pay any attention to them. Compared to these things that seemed to him like a child's jealousy, he still had proper business to attend to. Moreover, Song Tian and Xia Yunyun were close. Li Anping did not want to suddenly make a move just to save face and cause more trouble for himself. It might even affect his progress in becoming stronger. A few hours later in the night, Li Anping moved forward at high speed in the shadows. Li Qian's voice came from the headset in his right ear. This was something that Li Qian had taken from Xia Dragonfinch. "Hey, can you hear me? You can see a small courtyard 300 meters ahead. Yang Chong and his men are inside." "I hear you. How's Ahai? Have they dealt with the aftermath? Have they found the people that they let go?" Li Anping took a step and flew over a wall. He took a few steps on the wall and reached the top of the building. He looked at the courtyard 300 meters ahead. "They've found them. None of the workers who led the strike died. They were just injured and will be fine after a few days in the hospital. However, the colleagues at the scene complained for a long time. You were too cruel. There were 5 or 6 people whose heads were torn off. I heard that half of them vomited on the spot." "Ha ha ha ha." Li Qian's laughter came from the headset. Li Anping looked at the courtyard in the distance. He moved his feet and jumped off the roof. The wind blew past his ears. Kidnapping, intentional assault, rape, and detention. It's been so many years. They should have died long ago. Lianping landed on another small building. With a light leap, he leaped over the buildings and rushed toward the courtyard in the distance. How many of them are there? I asked about the takeout they ordered. There are 33 servings in total. We can't rule out that some of them ate 2 servings or didn't eat. The total number of people should be less than 40. Li Qian answered from the other end. Got it. Hearing this, Lianping leaped into the air and headed towards the courtyard. Bang! As soon as he landed, a strange sound came from under Lianping's feet, followed by a series of explosions, awakening everyone in the courtyard. Lianping looked at the large crater under his feet. His clothes and shoes had been blown apart, and his body was covered with wounds from the shrapnel. There are landmines? Are you kidding? This is Tianjing. Lianping asked Li Qian, can you still receive it? Is it broken? After asking a few questions, there was no response. Lianping directly pulled out the earpiece in his ear and found that it was full of cracks. He threw the broken headset on the ground and saw a few people shooting at him in the distance. He revealed a bloodthirsty smile and rushed over. Lianping didn't use much strength. He just ran a few steps and slid his fingers across their throats, chests, and heads. They had all fallen. But until the last person fell, not a single person let out a scream. In the eyes of the people who rushed over, after a series of afterimages, only Lianping was left standing on the blood-stained lawn. The quality of this group of people was better than Lianping imagined. When they saw Lianping rushing over, none of them ran away or said a word. They all just shot in the direction of Lianping. And they seemed to have experience in dealing with ability users. Although Lianping's speed was so fast that they couldn't see him, they relied on exquisite cooperation to cover all the positions in front of them with bullets. Lianping coldly snorted and rushed forward under the rain of bullets. He was hit by dozens of bullets before he reached them. Just as he twisted the head of one of them, the 5 people around him pulled out their grenades and rushed toward him. Aren't you afraid of death? Lianping grinned maliciously. He kicked hard and jumped 50 meters up. He coldly looked at the 5 people below him who were staring at him blankly. Then, 5 grenades exploded at the same time, killing the group of people. But at that moment, an armor-piercing bullet pierced through Lianping's chest and exploded into a large cluster of sparks. Then, Lianping, who was in midair, fell to the ground. Then, more than 10 men with submachine guns rushed up and looked at the corpse on the ground. But in the next moment they all turned into countless pieces and flew out. The furious Lianping directly used his fist to smash them all into pieces in a few seconds. Shaking off the blood on his hand, Lianping looked at the small house in the middle of the courtyard. His ears twitched slightly and he heard the sound of heartbeats and breathing. He said coldly, 18 dead. 15 left. His feet moved and he dodged a volley of bullets as he rushed toward the small house. In the basement of the house, in addition to Yang Chang, there was also a thin and weak-looking young man seated on a chair with his eyes closed. A scarred man in camouflage uniform stood before him. Yang Chang paced back and forth in the basement, listening to the increasingly sporadic sounds of gunfire outside. Cold sweat trickled down his face. He suddenly turned around and walked toward the table. However, the scarred man stopped him. What happened? Didn't you say that you would be able to capture him in just a few minutes? Why is it taking so long? The scarred man shouted, watch your tone. We are not your subordinate. Sir Qiao is in the middle of casting a spell. You cannot disturb him. As the two of them were arguing, the gunfire coming from above suddenly stopped. The young man who had his eyes closed suddenly opened his eyes and stood up. When he saw Yang Chang and the scarred man looking at him, he revealed a bitter smile. All the hosts that can be controlled are dead. He was hit by at least 1 landmine, 2 grenades and hundreds of bullets. And yet, he is unharmed. What did you say? Yang Chang became agitated. You are the one who said that you can protect me. I gave you so much money. In the end, so many of you can't even defeat one person. Thinking back to the first time he met Lianping, when Lianping had casually crippled his subordinates and almost killed him, Yang Chang became even more terrified. The young man looked at the agitated Yang Chang and shook his head impatiently. Quiet. Seeing that Yang Chang was about to continue arguing, the scarred man went up and covered his mouth. The entire underground safe house is made of steel that is 3 feet thick. Even a rocket launcher would not be able to penetrate it. You just need to keep quiet and don't let him discover us. Seeing Yang Chang nod, the scarred man let him go. At that moment, knocking sounds suddenly came from above them. It sounded like someone was knocking on the door. The three of them stared with wide eyes at the steel ceiling and could not help but gulp. The young man pretended to be relaxed and laughed. It's okay. 3 feet thick sealed steel plates. He should not be able to hear the sound below. Yang Chang and the scarred man nodded subconsciously. But in the next moment, a loud sound exploded on the roof. It was as if someone had used a mallet to hit their hearts. Then, a series of loud sounds rang out. It was as if a giant was smashing the roof with a hammer. Boom, 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 boom. Loud sounds came one after another, mixed with the sound of the house collapsing and the sound of steel being twisted. The three of them were sweating profusely. Only the young man's face was pale. He forced a smile and said, "It's okay. 3 feet thick steel plates. Although he is very powerful, it is impossible for him to break them." Yeah, how can a person break something like that? Yang Chang laughed nervously. He made such a big commotion. The police will definitely come soon. He can't kill me. Yeah, the scarred man said. Just as the three of them were comforting each other, the loud sounds suddenly stopped. Yang Chang laughed and said, "He gave up. He gave up." The young man and the scarred man also showed a smile of surviving a disaster. But this smile did not last for a second. Lianping, who had finished gathering qi, also punched the ground. Then, an earth-shattering explosion sounded from above their heads. Rumble. As if someone had detonated a bomb, the whole basement began to shake violently. In the desperate eyes of the three, the steel wall above their heads made a screeching sound, and then a small fist-like bump was revealed. Then the second. The third. Finally, with a loud bang, Yang Chang fell to the ground and stared blankly at the big hole in the roof. Lianping jumped down from the hole. The scarred man pulled out his gun and pointed it at Lianping. "You can't." Before his voice died away, his head flew off. When Yang Chang saw this, his lower body smelled like urine and he fainted on the ground. Lianping looked at the young man and said, "You said lodging just now. Can you explain it to me?" The young man was much calmer than Yang Chang and the scarred man. He knew that his life was in Lianping's hands. He replied clearly, "Like you, I'm also an ability user of the field system. My ability is to control humans as chess pieces, but I can only control ordinary people for now." No wonder those people up there were so unafraid of death just now. Moreover, they cooperated as if they were one person. The young man saw that Lianping was deep in thought and said nervously, "I'm from the True God sect. Yang Chang is our believer. That's why we're here to protect him. If you have enough evidence to prove his sins, we can hand him over." The young man's words were neither soft nor hard. He pointed out his background and gave Lianping a way out. Normally, among the ability users of Xia, very few would fall out with the True God sect. Seeing that Lianping was silent, the young man was confident that Lianping would not take the risk of becoming an enemy of the True God sect to kill him. At this moment, the sound of sirens suddenly rang out in the distance. The young man was just about to breathe a sigh of relief. But in the next moment, under his shocked gaze, Lianping smashed his head with a punch. The long-lost feeling appeared again. Lianping felt a large amount of energy being absorbed into his body. In addition to the gains he had made during this period of training, Li Anping's current physical fitness was 6.2, speed 5.0, and stamina 7.0. With a flash, Li Anping had already left the scene, leaving the mess to Li Qian and the others. At 11 o'clock in the evening, Li Anping casually changed into a new set of clothes. When he returned to the villa and opened the door, Xia Yunyun and Song Tian were sitting on the sofa watching a movie together. Xia Yunyun's eyes were full of curiosity, while Song Tian's eyes were full of astonishment. But in the next moment, this astonishment turned into a violent emotion that filled his chest. Xia Yunyun looked at Li Anping in surprise and asked, "Why did you come back so late today?" Song Tian patted Xia Yunyun's shoulder and said, "Yunyun, can you pour us a glass of water?" Xia Yunyun looked at Song Tian strangely, then got up and went to the kitchen. Li Anping acted as if he did not see Song Tian. He casually found a seat in the living room and sat down. Suddenly, Song Tian's voice rang out, "You have already accepted my money, right? Why are you still here now?" Li Anping looked at Song Tian and said, "You're talking about the one you left behind? I donated it to you." "Donated?" Song Tian stared at Li Anping, his psychokinesis full of malice gushing out. "You're playing with me? You donate so much money?" Song Tian stared coldly at Li Anping. Since the other party did not know how to appreciate his kindness, he was willing to be as polite as Xian Chang. Song Tian planned to tell the other party a truth that would make him feel despair. "I know you're an ability user and have some ability. You probably think you're very special, right? But I'm sorry to tell you that there are at least 8,000 level 1 ability users like you in the whole of Xia, if not 10,000. There's even Yunyun and me, both of our ability levels are higher than yours." Seeing the other party's stunned appearance, Song Tian pressed his psychokinesis towards Li Anping. Seeing that the other party was unable to move under the pressure of his psychokinesis, Song Tian continued with a disdainful tone, "Don't ever appear in front of Yunyun again. Otherwise, it won't be as simple as breaking an arm or a leg." At this moment, Xia Yunyun came to deliver the tea, but Song Tian just stood up and left. "Eh? You're leaving just like that? You don't want to drink tea anymore?" "No, I still have something to do at the company tomorrow, so I'll go back first." After saying that, Song Tian looked coldly at Li Anping and left without looking back. "What the hell? What did he say to you?" Xia Yunyun looked at Li Anping strangely. "I don't know, maybe he's crazy." Li Anping turned on his computer and sent Li Qian an email. "I want information on the True God religion and Song Tian." Chapter 86. Song Bang, huh? Li Anping muttered to himself as he looked at the information Li Qian had sent him. Song Tian's background was deeper than he had imagined. First of all, his grandfather, Song Bang, was the current leader of Xia Dragonfinch, and was considered one of the strongest ability users in Xia. The Song family itself was also one of the 9 royal families. His other uncles, brothers, and brothers were all in important positions in the military and politics. And in next year's 9 royal families election, the Song family's support for ascending to the throne was also very high. It was said that their people had been running around recently, paving the way for next year's election. And Song Tian's pursuit of Xia Yunyun was clearly because he wanted to get in touch with someone as strong as Xia Laikong. After all, in Xia Dragonfinch, apart from Zhu Rong, the Flying General, and Song Bang, there was only one level 5 ability user, Xia Laikong. And Zhu Rong was originally leaning towards Song Bang's side, while the Flying General and Xia Laikong were sworn friends. If Xia Yunyun became Song Bang's wife, then it would be beneficial for him to completely control Xia Dragonfinch. After reading the information, Li Anping understood that the Song family's power was so great that it was enough to make ordinary people tremble in fear. If other people knew that they had offended Song Tian with such a background, they might have been scared silly long ago. immediately apologizing and leaving the villa. But why would Li Anping care about this? Moreover, the people he hated the most were the second generation of rich people and officials. Compared to directly reconciling, he was more inclined to directly get rid of Song Tian. If Song Tian really did something he shouldn't have done, then, a few minutes later, Li Qian also arrived at the villa with a bag of documents, all of which were related to the true God religion. Song Bang was the leader of Xia Dragonfinch, so Li Qian obviously couldn't get her information, so the documents sent to Li Anping were all arranged by her. And the information on the true God religion was from Xia Dragonfinch's internal archives. Obviously, Xia Dragonfinch had been keeping an eye on the country's largest religious organization for a long time. The true God religion had existed in the East for over 1,000 years, and they were the largest ability user organization from ancient times until now. In ancient times, when technology wasn't yet flourished, superpowers were considered the power of gods or demons. Throughout history, there were countless religions that were formed by superpowers. Clearly, the true God religion was one of the most successful religions. He gathered believers through his ability, and then used the religion as a tool to gain wealth and power. This was the usual method used by most religions, but it was a tried and tested method. And the armed organization of the true God religion was called the Holy Alliance. When it was first established, it was responsible for the safety of the true God religion's personnel, property, and followers. And now, the true God religion didn't recognize the Holy Alliance on the surface, but in fact, they had been secretly supporting the Holy Alliance's illegal activities in Xia. The young man who could control the human body should be a member of the Holy Alliance. Similar civilian superpower organizations, such as the One Chi Sect and the Revival Society, all of them were due to various historical problems, which caused Xia Dragonfinch to be unable to incorporate, eliminate, or be unable to incorporate and eliminate them. Li Qian looked at Li Anping's serious look as he read the documents, and a trace of intoxication appeared in her eyes. When she saw Li Anping raise his head to look at her, she couldn't help but panic, and a trace of blush flashed across her face. Li Anping didn't care about this, and directly asked, "Has your ability shown any signs of upgrading recently? How's Xia Dragonfinch doing?" "I don't understand upgrading at all." Li Qian shook her head. Xia Dragonfinch's treatment is good, the food in the cafeteria is good, and there's also a free gym, a swimming pool, an arcade, and the salary is high. Li Anping touched his forehead and stopped Li Qian from continuing. "I'm asking you about their attitude, towards you and towards me. Xia Laikong will be rushing to the northern front tomorrow morning, and without him in Tianjing, I'm afraid you'll be under a lot of pressure." "It's okay, my colleagues are all very good to me, and many people even said that you killed well. If they weren't in uniform, they would have done it long ago. But there are also some people who are dissatisfied with your violent behavior, and they have been complaining to their superiors about you, but Xia Laikong suppressed them. But their attitude towards you has nothing to do with me. A lot of people are still worried about me, afraid that you'll go berserk and kill me." Li Anping nodded and continued, "In terms of ability, I thought about it, maybe it's not enough to just collect information. Can't you control paper? You should practice this ability every day. Maybe this is the key to why you haven't been able to upgrade." Then Li Anping and Li Qian discussed how to train their ability every day. Suddenly, his ears twitched and he said, "Someone's coming, you should go first." Li Qian nodded and walked towards the back door. Before leaving, she couldn't help but look at Li Anping's back. She didn't know when, but Li Anping's back became more and more blurred. He was no longer as straightforward as before, and Li Qian was even a little unclear about Li Anping's ultimate goal. But this didn't hinder her trust in Li Anping. A trace of determination flashed in her eyes, and Li Qian left from the back door. A few minutes later, there was a knock on the villa's door. Li Anping opened the door and found a bright young man at the door. The young man looked to be about the age of high school, and when he saw Lianping, he smiled. The young man stretched out his hand. Hello, are you Lianping? Lianping shook hands with the young man. That's me, and you are? My name is Sun Hao. Boss Xia asked me to come. Sun Hao's smile was full of kindness. I heard that you want to find a sturdy place to train. Yes, he told me this morning that he arranged for 2 people to train with me after he left. Where's the other person? Sun Hao scratched his head embarrassedly, revealing the unique shyness of a young man. Shin Dong has something to do, he can't come. Lianping nodded and didn't say anything. He knew that things weren't that simple, but Xiao Yekong's arrangement was to strengthen his relationship with Xia Dragonfinch, so Lianping didn't care about it. Then take me there directly. Okay. After saying that, Sun Hao took Lianping to the car. He drove directly to the training place. The car drove through the bustling center of Tianjin and headed toward the suburbs. The car drove farther and farther away, and Lianping almost thought that the continuous mountainous area in front of him wasn't Tianjin. Sun Hao finally stopped in front of an open space. He smiled embarrassedly. I'm sorry, all the other places have been taken, and this is the only place left. It's okay, but where is it? Sun Hao smiled mysteriously, got out of the car, and shouted a series of instructions toward the open space in front of him. Then, with a series of mechanical sounds, an underground entrance suddenly opened in the open space in front of Lianping. Sun Hao turned his head and smiled. Let's go, it's quite deep down, and the passage is very long. Lianping followed behind Sun Hao, and along the way, they passed 3 inspection equipment, scanning their retinas, fingerprints, and Sun Hao's work pass. After walking for about a few hundred meters, their eyes lit up, and a vast underground space made of steel appeared in front of Lianping. Sun Hao stood in front of Lianping and introduced. It's a total of 1,000 square meters in size, and it's wrapped in a radiation and impact-resistant layer. The entire training room is earthquake-resistant, pressure-resistant, heat-resistant, and cold-resistant. There's also a variety of cold and hot weapons for you to choose from. After saying that, rows of weapon cabinets rose up beside Sun Hao, from the simplest knives, swords, and daggers to pistols, submachine guns, and even rocket launchers and sniper rifles. Of course, in addition to the 1,000 square meters of open space for actual combat, there are many built-in training equipment for strength, speed, reaction, endurance, agility, and so on in the surrounding small rooms. I won't introduce them one by one, but there are instructions on the wall. There's a bathroom and toilet at the door, and the only downside is that there's no canteen. After saying that, Sun Hao smiled proudly and said, How is it? Are you satisfied? Not bad. Xia Yunyun yawned as she walked down the stairs, looking sleepy. She subconsciously glanced at the living room. TSK, where did you go to fool around again? Xia Yunyun walked into the bathroom and started brushing her teeth. Halfway through, she suddenly walked toward the window in the courtyard. TSK, I'm just taking a casual look, so you won't ruin my lawn. In the end, Xia Yunyun saw that the lawn was empty. Lianping was not there at all. Her face darkened, and she walked back to the bathroom to continue brushing her teeth. This country bumpkin, he's been going out early and coming back late these days. Where did he go to fool around? Xia Yunyun suddenly stopped brushing her teeth and thought to herself, did this guy join Xia Dragonfinch and go on a mission? He's only level 1, why is he doing a mission instead of training? No, he can't be fooling around with that Li Qian, right? That woman doesn't look like a good person. Suddenly, Xia Yunyun spat out the toothpaste in her mouth. Why am I thinking so much? He better disappear from my house quickly, then I can breathe a sigh of relief. Xia Yunyun continued to wash up, but for some reason, she couldn't help but think of Lianping, and then she couldn't help but get angry. In the underground training room, 2 shadows cut through the air, continuously clashing in the square. The impact of the two people's punches and kicks created waves of muffled sounds in the underground space. If someone were here to see Li Anping and Sun Hao exchange blows, they would definitely be amazed by the two's combat strength. Meanwhile, Sun Hao, who was in the middle of the battle, deeply felt the terror of Li Anping in front of him. This Li Anping, each of his punches and kicks look extremely fast and powerful, but that kind of relaxed expression shows that he isn't using his full strength at all. But I'm already almost at my limit. I'm still a level 4 ability user, after all. And those movements that seem like those of a layman, they look clumsy, but they're all meaningful. If he hasn't received special martial arts training to confuse the opponent, then it must be his instincts at work, the terrifying instincts of fighting for a living. There's no need to know why, no need to know the reason for each of his actions. He's fighting based on his instincts. This Li Anping, just what kind of background does he have? Right at this moment, the two figures clashed again, and the muffled sound of the collision rang through the entire training room. Li Anping stood steadily where he was. Meanwhile, Sun Hao directly flew out, rolling for over 10 meters on the ground before coming to a stop. Li Anping asked, "Are you okay?" Sun Hao panted continuously, large amounts of sweat coming out from the surface of his body. He said intermittently, I'm fine." Chapter 87. Sun Hao was panting heavily. Compared to him, Li Anping looked calm and relaxed, as if he had just finished taking a stroll. "Hey, I'll talk," Sun Hao said as he got up. "Just now, how much strength did you use?" "Me?" Li Anping looked around the training room with interest, as if he was surprised by the hardness of the material under his feet. Hearing Sun Hao's question, he answered casually, "About 30 to 40%. Sun Hao stared at Li Anping with wide eyes, unable to calm down for a long time. This was also one of Xiao Yekong's goals. He knew that in a place like Xia Dragonfinch, if an ability user wanted to be respected, it was best to directly display their strength. He also hoped that through this action, he could prepare Li Anping to integrate into Xia Dragonfinch. "My ability is to control the electricity in my body, and through stimulating my nerves and muscles, I have a godly speed that far surpasses ordinary people. This Li Anping, not only is his speed comparable to mine, his stamina and strength are far above mine. And he only used 30 to 40% of his strength? Are you kidding me? Where did Boss Xia find such a monster? And he's only at the first level?" It wasn't that Sun Hao hadn't seen geniuses with superior abilities, but it was the first time he had seen someone like Li Anping who was so terrifyingly strong at the first level. If he knew what Li Anping's ability was, he would probably understand that the level of an ability couldn't be used to measure Li Anping's strength. His combat strength was only related to his physical fitness. Li Anping saw that Sun Hao was still panting, so he said, "You rest first, I'll try something else." Then, Sun Hao saw Li Anping go to a dodgeball training room. He even adjusted the difficulty of the game. 21 marbles were ejected from the room. The huge kinetic energy caused the marbles to bounce around the small room. What Li Anping needed to do was to dodge all the marbles before they stopped. Only a series of afterimages could be seen flickering in the small room. From the beginning to the end, Li Anping did not let the ball touch his body even once. This wasn't just a matter of speed, but also a comprehensive performance of reaction, insight, and concentration. Even Sun Hao himself could only score 9 goals. After Li Anping finished his training, he quickly walked to the next machine. "This monster. I'm convinced." Sun Hao shook his head and walked towards Li Anping. He took out a USB drive and said, "This is the internal information that Boss Xia asked me to pass to you. It's all military combat techniques that we've simplified or improved, especially suitable for ability users with powerful physical bodies. Originally, I wasn't too convinced. Now, take it. I also want to know how strong you will become after practicing these things." "Thanks. Taking the USB drive, Lianping revealed a smile. At night, in an alley. A provocative girl with blonde hair in a revealing dress was running along the corner of the wall. Her long and slender thighs, together with her soft breasts and thin waist, looked extremely sexy. She ran quickly barefoot, her chest moving up and down. Her eyes would look behind her from time to time. There was still a terrified expression on her face, as if something terrifying was chasing after her. Just as he was running halfway, two youths suddenly blocked his path. "Miss, it's very dangerous to be out so late at night. Do you want to go out and play with us?" Seeing the two men's lecherous looks, the woman looked at them with disgust and shouted, "Scram!" Something unbelievable happened. The woman's voice seemed to have magic, rolling up an invisible force, pushing the two men away and making them roll out. Looking disdainfully at the two men who were lying on the ground and crying out in pain, the woman continued to run out. But just as she turned a corner, a brick flew toward her at high speed. The woman screamed subconsciously. "Ah!" This scream smashed the brick flying toward her into smithereens. Lianping slowly walked out from the shadows. He looked coldly at the blonde woman and said, "Turning sound into physical force? That's a good ability. It's a pity you didn't use it in the right place." Seeing Lianping walk out, the woman's expression changed drastically. She turned around without looking back and ran toward another alley. The woman's explosive speed at this moment was comparable to the world's top sprinters. Moreover, she ran for more than 500 meters without panting. While running, the woman looked back and realized that Lianping was no longer in sight. She stopped. She looked around nervously. The street lamps on the side were flickering. Under the dim yellow light, the surrounding alley seemed to be darker. Other than a few catcalls, there was no one in sight. "You're looking for me?" A voice suddenly rang out behind the woman's head, scaring her so much that she fell to the ground. She kept screaming at Lianping, who had suddenly appeared. The sound waves turned into an invisible force that kept pressing toward Lianping. However, other than disturbing his clothes, it was useless. It seemed that this power was like a gentle breeze to Lianping. Seeing that her ability was ineffective, the woman gradually regained her composure. She looked at Lianping and said, "Who are you? Why are you dealing with me?" Lianping didn't say anything. He just walked up to her and looked at her silently. The woman felt her hair stand on end. She said in a panic, "You've already killed all my subordinate. Isn't that enough? No matter who pays you to kill me, I can pay double the price. I'm not doing this for money." Lianping took out a photo and placed it in front of the woman. "Do you still remember her?" The woman looked at the photo. It was a little girl about 10 years old. She looked pure and cute, and her clothes were innocent. However, the photo looked a little old. It seemed to be an old photo from many years ago. The woman faintly felt that the little girl looked a little familiar, but she couldn't remember where she had seen her before. "You want to find this girl? I can use my power to help you find her," she said. Lianping shook his head. There was a touch of red in his eyes. "This is the first girl you kidnapped 10 years ago. Her name was Hongmengli. She died of AIDS 3 years ago. During the 7 years she was in your hands, you treated her as a sex slave, a bargaining chip to please the rich and powerful. Even now, her parents still haven't given up looking for her. Unfortunately, they will never find her." The woman said in a panic, "You're his relative? What do you want?" "I can give you all my money." Seeing Lianping's unmoved expression, the woman licked her lip. Suddenly, she took off her little dress, revealing her fierce mask. She looked seductive. "Do you want me?" She slowly peeled off her fierce mask, revealing her snow-white and tender chest. With the support of Qi and the millions of dollars spent on maintenance every year, her 30-year-old body was still as tight as a young girl's. However, with the young woman's familiarity with sex, she looked even more erotic. She stroked her chest and grabbed the 2 small spots on her chest. She let out a soft gasp and blushed. I'm very good at serving people. As long as you let me go this time, I can be your woman. No, I can be your slave. I'll make you feel so good that you can fly. After that, she boldly grabbed Lianping's crotch. However, Lianping slapped her hand away. In the past 10 years, you've used your ability to abduct and sell more than 30 young girls for sex. Lianping looked at the woman coldly. He was completely unaffected by her naked body. It was as if the person in front of him was a statue and not a living beauty. I'm here today to kill you. That's all. When Lianping pointed at the woman's forehead, her eyes were still filled with shock. A few seconds later, her pupils gradually dilated and her body fell to the ground. Feeling a trace of power flowing into his body through his finger, Lianping said into the earpiece, "I've found them. Let them deal with the aftermath." Lianping flashed and appeared 100 meters away. The sound of the wind whistling through the earpiece could be heard. Li Qian said on the other end, "Understood. We've already taken all the girls away. There will be people to take care of them. After they finish their psychological treatment, their parents will come and take them away. And the money in her account. Donate it all," Lianping said casually. Li Qian thought for a moment and said, "I've kept a portion." A cold snort made Li Qian tremble uncontrollably. However, she still held her breath and said, "Also, after the last few arrests, I've kept a portion of the criminals' funds. I think you need this money." "I don't need money." Lianping's cold voice made Li Qian's heart palpitate. "Li Qian, don't do anything unnecessary." "But I think you need it." Li Qian argued, "You're not alone. I don't know if you'll become enemies with Xia Dragonfinch in the end, but I don't think you'll join Xia Dragonfinch, right? Whether or not you'll become enemies with Xia Dragonfinch, a hidden fund is very useful. In this society, food, shelter, and transportation, everything needs money. Don't even talk about being chivalrous. If you have companions in the future, or buy weapons, venues, or even some of your personal matters, you can't just rely on Xia Dragonfinch, right? Also, if you want to help the weak and kind, money is also very important." After that, Li Qian closed her mouth and stopped talking. Although she didn't say it explicitly, she was leaving a way out for Lianping. However, she was really afraid that Lianping wouldn't trust her anymore. There was a long silence. Li Qian even thought that Lianping had turned off his headset. Only then did he reply. "This is the only time I'll pretend that nothing happened. In the future, if you want to do something similar, you have to tell me in advance." "Phew." Li Qian exhaled and continued, "I've also done some research and found someone. I think we can get him to join us and help us with the funds. Do you want to meet him? I'll leave it to you, but you have to use your ability to monitor him. I need to know the whereabouts of every single cent every day." Chapter 88. In Song Bang's office, a middle-aged man who looked simple and honest and old-fashioned was sitting in front of Song Bang's desk with a cautious expression. The man looked honest, but there was a cunning look in his eyes. "Shin Dong? Why are you looking for me?" Song Bang looked at the computer screen in front of him without looking at Shin Dong. Shin Dong smiled and said, "I don't want to work for Boss Xia anymore. I want to work for you." "What nonsense," Song Bang frowned and said, "what's there to work for? We are all working for Xia." Yes, for Xia," Shin Dong nodded and said, "I want to change my position. I don't want to work for old Xia anymore." Song Bang looked at Shin Dong and said, "Why? You were promoted step by Xia Laikong, weren't you? If it weren't for him, you wouldn't be standing in front of me now." Shin Dong's smile looked very simple and honest, but the words that came out of his mouth were very vicious. What's that old saying again? "A fine bird chooses a tree to nest in." Old Xia treated me well in the past, but I've worked for him for so many years and helped him so much. I've repaid what I owed him. Now, he's promoting a newbie who hasn't even joined the team. How can I swallow this anger? You've heard the rumors in the team recently, haven't you? In order to win over a kid who's still wet behind the ears, he made a bunch of people clean up his mess. It was Shirley's fault for doing this. Also, he wants me and Sun Hao to accompany that kid in training. I've been in the team for more than 10 years. I've worked hard for him. He's promoting a newbie now, and he wants us to be his stepping stones. It's not that easy. Song Bang stared at him for a while and said, "Okay, you can go. What about this?" Shin Dong scratched his head. "I'll arrange a position for you in a few days." "Thank you, Prince." Shin Dong happily stood up and hurriedly left. After Shin Dong left, Song Bang opened a document on his computer. It was all about Shin Dong's social activities in recent years. Most of them were evidence of him colluding with some rich businessmen and officials. A few of them, in particular, had lost a lot of money because of Li Anping's killing over the past few days. For example, he had invested in several plots of land built by the Haitao Group. Obviously, Li Anping's actions had violated his interests. In addition, in recent years, he had been surpassed by newcomers like Sun Hao and was gradually pushed out of Xiao Yekong's circle of masters. Therefore, he was dissatisfied and wanted to seek refuge with Xiao Yekong's political rival, Song Bang. However, Song Bang didn't care about why he sought refuge with him, nor did he care about how many heinous things he had done. In fact, under him, Song Bang would even give him more benefits and freedom. Because of Shin Dong's own strength and the representative of those who sought refuge with him, Song Bang was concerned. If there was a first, there would always be a second and a third. In the following days, Li Anping went to the training room with Sun Hao almost every other day to train. In addition, he constantly hunted ordinary people and ability users who did evil at night. His strength rose steadily. Currently, his physical fitness had reached 6. 3 in strength, 5. 2 in agility, and 7. 1 in stamina. Li Anping's fighting skills had improved even more. They had completely removed the original rough and immature parts, becoming more mature, effective, and straightforward. In addition, there was some internal information from Xia Dragonfinch. The current Li Anping was at least twice as strong as when he first came to Tianjing. Boom! The two fists collided. Sun Hao felt a wave of power pass through his arm and shoulder and hit his entire body. His body flew uncontrollably toward the ceiling. Li Anping, who was below him, formed a palm with his right hand and made a strange gesture. Then, he struck upward toward Sun Hao's position with his palm. Boom! It sounded like something hitting the surface of the water. In Sun Hao's eyes, a white shockwave came toward him and blasted directly on his body. The huge force passed from his skin to his muscles, internal organs, bones, and nerve. His body was in a state of immobility in midair, and then he fell straight to the ground. Xia's military martial art technique, empty palm. Through special techniques, coupled with great speed and strength, the palm compressed the air to form a shockwave. Sun Hao also knew this move, but the shockwave he sent out was at most 1 meter away. It was enough to knock out ordinary people. It had very little effect on ability users with strong physical fitness. In Li Anping's hands, this martial art technique was like adding wings to a tiger. According to Sun Hao's estimation, Li Anping's empty palm had a range of about 5 meters. It was also very powerful. Li Anping had used the empty palm to hit Sun Hao from a distance several times. It even scattered the muscle strength in his body, making him unable to use his strength for a few seconds. How long has it been since I gave him the martial art technique materials? It hasn't even been a week, right? I can't believe he's already so proficient in using the empty palm technique. Sun Hao's astonishment had almost dissipated during his training with Li Anping. At first, he had the confidence and ambition to catch up with Li Anping. In fact, during this period of training with Li Anping, he had made great progress and was much stronger than before. But Li Anping's progress was even greater. Superb memory, comprehension, and imitation skills. And what Sun Hao didn't know was that terrifying body that was constantly getting stronger. Sun Hao was becoming less and less confident that he could catch up with Li Anping's footstep. Seeing Sun Hao fall to the ground and not get up for a long time, Li Anping asked, "What's wrong? Are you tired today?" "No. I'm thinking about how to beat you." After all, Sun Hao was a young and energetic teenager. Moreover, since he became an ability user, he had always been regarded as a genius. Although he admired Li Anping's strength more and more in his heart, he refused to admit defeat. "Let me think about it, I'm almost there." It was said that no discord, no friendship. Li Anping and Sun Hao fought every few days, so they could be considered friends. He thought for a while and said, "Is your ability to control electricity?" "How did you know?" Sun Hao looked at Li Anping in surprise. "That's right. I've electrocuted you a few times trying to numb you, but in the end, nothing happened to you. My ability is to control bioelectricity. Although I can charge it with electricity, the power of the electrocution isn't strong. Its main function is to stimulate my cells and nerves, increasing my body's speed. It also replaces nerve signals, saving the brain time to react. It makes me faster." "Then have you thought about magnetism?" Li Anping said after thinking for a while. "Magnetism? Didn't they say that electromagnetism doesn't separate? Since you have electricity, why don't you try magnetism?" "How did you think of magnetism?" Sun Hao looked at his hands. It was impossible that he hadn't thought of magnetism. After all, he had had this ability for more than 10 years. "Electromagnetism is one of the 4 fundamental forces. I think if you can use it, it should be very powerful." Sun Hao looked at his hands and felt the surge of electricity under the surface of his body. He didn't speak for a long time. Li Anping saw that he was deep in thought, so he didn't wait for him there. He went directly into a room next to him. There was a 100-meter-long track inside. Along the way, there would be steel pillars that would protrude from all directions. The trainers would have to run the 100 meters quickly while avoiding the steel pillars. This training was focused on the ability to charge and assault. The afternoon passed just like that. When Li Anping came out of the shower and sat in Sun Hao's car, the phone rang. Li Qian's voice came from the phone. "Finished training? Do you remember what I told you last week? I have my eyes on someone who can help us with the funds. I've arranged to meet him today. You should come too." Li Anping said perfunctorily, "I said that I'll leave everything to you, right? Just make sure that the money isn't misspent and show me his newspaper. Also, I have an action tonight." "Did you forget that all your actions will be taken care of by us? Today is your day off," Li Qian suddenly said coquettishly, "and we haven't seen each other for almost a week. This time, I'll take it as a chance to see you." Li Anping really couldn't stand the girl's coquettishness. He could only helplessly say, "You only have 15 minutes. Give me the address. Sun Hao will send me there." "Hey, when did I say I'll send you there?" Ignoring Sun Hao's complaints, Li Anping listened to the address and said to Sun Hao, "The intersection of 5th and 6th Avenues. I'll get off there." Chapter 89. Wei Zhuan sat in the coffee shop, looking a little bored. This was the 3rd time the waitress had refilled his cup. Every time she bent down, Wei Zhuan could clearly see the color of her underwear, as well as her deep cleavage. Wei Zhuan understood what this girl's goal was. Be it the watch on his wrist that was worth over 100,000 yuan, the handmade suit, or the limited edition leather shoes on his feet, they were all fatally attractive to young girls who had a youthful and beautiful face but came from ordinary family backgrounds and desired wealth. If it were any other time, Wei Zhuan wouldn't mind having sex with this sweet-looking girl with a curvy figure. He would also be able to relieve her financial pressure. However, he wasn't free right now. He was here to work today. A mysterious client had contacted him through email and asked him to come here. According to the rules of the industry, he wouldn't have agreed to a stranger's appointment. However, when the other party sent the email, he had also transferred 1 million yuan to his personal account. Regardless of whether it was this 1 million yuan or the fact that the other party had easily found out about his overseas account, they all revealed that the other party was not ordinary. Therefore, Wei Zhuan came to the intersection of 5th and 6th Avenues today to have a cup of coffee. "Hello, you're Wei Zhuan, right?" A man sat down in front of Wei Zhuan. Tall, strong, and cold. This was Wei Zhuan's first impression of him. However, the other party's second sentence made his expression change. "Or can I call you Huang Tian? Which do you prefer?" Wei Zhuan, or rather, Huang Tian's back was already soaked in cold sweat. "I'm sorry, you seem to have found the wrong person." After saying that, he stood up and looked around, searching for possible police officers, special agents, or Interpol. "Don't be nervous, Huang Tian. If I were you, I'd sit down." Lianping, who was sitting opposite Huang Tian, smiled and said, "If I really wanted to catch you, it would be at 420 Tianhe Road, 650 Starry Sky Road, or maybe 122 Tianyuan Road, although you don't go there very often." Hearing the other party reveal 3 of his hiding places in Tianjin, Huang Tian had no choice but to sit down and continue to talk with Lianping. "What do you want?" "What I want is your talent." Lianping recalled the information that Li Qian had given him and said, 10 years ago, on the surface, you were the treasurer of the Xia royal family's charity organization. However, I heard that you were wanted for corruption and dereliction of duty. In the end, the police let you escape." "Whatever you say." Lianping shook his head. "I know you are wronged. In fact, 10 years ago, there were more than 1 or 2 people who embezzled public funds and just waited to die. However, on the surface, there were still a few people who insisted on doing charity. Because of this, you became a thorn in everyone's side. When the corruption scandal broke out in the organization, you became the first choice of scapegoat." Huang Tian stared at Lianping. "Who exactly are you?" Lianping ignored him and continued, "From a wanted criminal to a billionaire again, you only used 7 years. Moreover, you didn't go from one extreme to the other. You still do charity. The amount of money you donate every year is probably more than the amount of money that those celebrities who scam donations in the news put together. Speaking of which, it's not surprising. A person with ability wouldn't do too badly no matter what." "What did you say?" "I don't understand what you mean. Your ability should be related to mathematics, right? Although it can't be used to fight in modern society, it's easy to use it to make money." Huang Tian didn't say anything, but he was shocked by the other party's ability to gather information. Intelligence Bureau? Military Intelligence Bureau? Special Warfare Bureau? A few names flashed through Huang Tian's mind, but he couldn't match any of them. "It's a pity. Although you earned money that others can't earn in their lifetime, there are some things that you will never be able to undo." As if realizing what the other party was going to say, Huang Tian's breathing quickened. Lianping handed Huang Tian a phone. "This is your enemy, the mastermind who framed you, Miao He, and his goddaughter, Song Xiaoxiao. Haha, if his goddaughter didn't love to flaunt her wealth, so many dirty secrets wouldn't have been exposed. He wouldn't have jumped up and down and tried to use you as a scapegoat. What's funny is that she used this incident to hype herself up and became a small celebrity." Huang Tian looked at the video on the phone nervously. It was a video of Miao He and Song Xiaoxiao being gagged and tied together. "Now you can take revenge on them at any time. This is something that you can never do with money alone. What are your conditions?" Huang Tian looked at Lianping calmly, but his trembling hands couldn't stop. "I have a fund. I don't want people to ever find out about him, but I can use it at any time. With your ability and talent, I believe you can do it." Lianping gave him a bank card with a password written on it. "Okay." Huang Tian nodded. "There's 200 million in it now. In the future, I'll add money to it from time to time. What you need to do is keep it safe for me and give 20% of it to charity. Huang Tian was puzzled. Aren't you afraid that I'll run away with your money? I'm not afraid. Lianping said, you should already know about our intelligence network, and you're not the only metahuman in this world. Lianping raised his hand, and a drop of blood slowly fell from it. At this moment, Huang Tian felt a chill on his forehead. He didn't know when it had happened, but there was already a cut on his forehead. Then, Lianping's voice came from behind his head. If you do something you shouldn't do, it won't be as simple as a small cut next time. Huang Tian looked up again, but Lianping was nowhere to be seen. He looked around and saw that no one was paying attention to him. It was as if they didn't see what Lianping had done. He didn't know that Lianping's speed had already surpassed the limit of what a normal person could see with their eyes. These normal people were no different from blind people to Lianping. A minute later, Huang Tian received a message on his phone. It was Miao Hiansong Xiaoxiao's current location. Lianping got into the car and saw Li Qian staring at her phone. He asked, "What are you looking at?" "The northern front doesn't look good. Fire Dragon Vanguard, White Short Star, and Lady ambushed the flying general and injured him. When General Xia arrived, it was already a little late. The originally evenly matched situation was broken." After Li Qian finished speaking, she comforted herself. "But it should be fine. General Xia is very strong, right? Zhurong, who has the same status as him, shouldn't be weak either. Fire Dragon Vanguard only sent White Short Star and Lady, so it shouldn't be a problem if it's 2 against 2. Forget it, let's not talk about this. Let's go eat?" Li Qian turned her head and stared at Lianping. Lianping wanted to reject, but Li Qian didn't let go of his arm and kept shaking it. After all, Li Qian was one of them. Lianping couldn't be as cruel to her as he was to his enemies. This was one of the results of him still holding on to human habit. In the end, Lianping didn't train, read, or go online that night. Instead, he went shopping with Li Qian, had dinner, and watched a movie. When the two of them returned to the villa, Li Qian asked with a red face, "Is this considered a date?" Without waiting for Lianping's reply, she skipped away on her own. Then, Xia Yunyun walked down the stairs in her pajamas. She looked at him with an unfriendly expression. "You haven't been training your qi recently. Why are you fooling around with this woman every day?" When Lianping saw Xia Yunyun, he was surprised and said, "You're back early today. I just woke up. Don't change the topic. Have you been with her every day for the past few days?" Lianping didn't bother with her and went straight to his room. Xia Yunyun was left standing alone in the living room. She didn't know why she was angry. In the following days, Lianping wandered between darkness and light. He trained, caught criminals, went online, read newspapers, and went for a drive. He used Li Qian's ability to monitor the situation every day. Speaking of which, although Li Qian's ability hadn't improved, there were about 10,000 people in Tianjing being monitored. Because her ability would end after 30 days, Li Qian had to use group voice calls to achieve continuous monitoring. Xia Yunyun seemed to have completely given up on Lianping. She thought that he was useless and had given up on practicing qi. Although Xia Likong didn't support her and Song Tian being together, her relationship with Song Tian seemed to be warming up. In the training room, after Sun Hao left, Lianping slowly pulled out the high-frequency knife he brought with him from the scabbard. He used a little force in his palm, and a thin layer of red light appeared on the blade. Lianping pointed the tip of the knife at the alloy dummy in front of him and suddenly stabbed it. It was as easy as inserting a table knife into a pot of hot butter. After the Murasima blade pierced into the dummy's body, Lianping then lifted the blade up, slicing the dummy into 2. During this period of time, other than his punches and kicks, Lianping didn't forget about the high-frequency knife. It was just that he treated the high-frequency knife as his secret weapon. With his strength and speed, when he wielded the Murasama blade that could slash through anything, his destructive prowess had increased by more than 10 times. Chapter 90. When Sun Hao returned to the door of the training room, he could hear the howling of the strong wind from far away. He walked up to the door and looked toward the source of the sound. He saw a black shadow shuttling back and forth between over 100 dummies at high speed. Streams of red sword light surged in the air. Because the human and sword shadows were moving too fast, they seemed to be connected together. They were like streams of laser beams, slicing the dummies into countless pieces. Then, they were blown up into the air by the howling strong wind. Within a few seconds, the 100 dummies were sliced into pieces by the laser-like red sword light and swept up into the air. As the sword light flashed, Sun Hao could feel its terrifying sharpness from far away. It even shone on his face and caused him to feel a slight stinging pain. Sun Hao knew that it was an illusion caused by the sword being too sharp and the air being stirred up. However, he still could not help but take a few steps back. The human figure who was stirring up the sword light had already stopped. It was Li Anping. He held the sword with one hand and looked at the pieces that were floating in the air and were about to fall down slowly. Just when Sun Hao thought that it was over and was astonished by his opponent's sword skills, Li Anping's other hand was also holding onto the hilt of his sword. A huge sense of threat came rushing toward him. To Li Anping, it was just the aura that was unleashed from serious sword practice. However, to Sun Hao, it was a terrifying pressure that was enough to threaten his life. His muscles tensed up subconsciously, and he focused like never before. The bioelectric current instantly took over the control of his body, manipulating his body to move backward according to the predetermined procedure. Under the pressure of a threat that he had never felt before, Sun Hao's concentration and insight reached their limits in an instant. Therefore, in that instant, he also clearly saw Li Anping's movements. Sun Hao felt that the entire training room space seemed to have slowed down. In his eyes, the pieces in the air were falling at an extremely slow speed. Li Anping's other hand slowly touched the hilt of his sword, forming a two-handed sword grip. This kind of slow illusion meant that Li Anping's movements had already reached a limit. In Sun Hao's eyes, Li Anping slowly swung his sword towards the fragments in the air. The supersonic slash, coupled with the sharp cutting surface of the high-frequency knife, formed a sharp shock wave visible to the naked eye. A shock wave like this could be as simple as a gust of wind. However, before the first shock wave dissipated, a second shock wave appeared, followed by a third and a fourth. In Sun Hao's line of sight, the 1-meter radius in front of Li Anping had already become a blurry red shadow. With a speed that exceeded Sun Hao's imagination, his hands slashed at the air again and again. The atmosphere was screaming. Space was trembling. Countless streams of air turned into shock waves, stacking together like a storm of swords. In the next moment, Sun Hao's senses returned to normal. At this moment, he took a small step back. The training room in front of him had already become a vast expanse of white. The white shock waves, or rather sword cheese, weasel sickles, etc., rose up like countless tornadoes, engulfing all the fragments in the air. A terrifying friction sound rang out, as if a monster was swallowing the air. A few seconds later, all the fragments in the air disappeared, and Li Anping still maintained his two-handed sword grip. It was as if his previous movements were just an illusion. Everything happened in a short period of less than a second. If an ordinary person were here, they would only see Li Anping holding the sword with both hands, and then a white sword glow sweeping past, turning the fragments in the air into fine powder. If it were 100 or 200 years earlier, Li Anping would have been regarded as a sword immortal, a sword cultivator. This sword technique was modified from the empty palm and Xia dragonfinch's information. Li Anping named it sword cheese waves. After Li Anping sheathed the high-frequency sword, He turned and silently looked in Sun Hao's direction. Fang Xinjian's heartbeat and breathing were so loud. How could he not have noticed it? Sun Hao walked out from behind the door and looked at Lianping slowly. Ha. I came back because there's something I forgot to tell you. There's a small gathering tomorrow. Come along. Lianping looked at Sun Hao coldly. It was only when he saw that the latter's hair stood on end that he said calmly, "Don't talk nonsense." "Don't worry, I definitely won't tell anyone," Sun Hao said anxiously. "I'm a famous zipper, the terminator of secrets, and the crusher of gossip. Other than me, there won't be a second person who knows about today's matter." After saying so much, Sun Hao said with some anticipation, "You'll be attending tomorrow's gathering, right? You've been training every day, so you should take a break. Anyway, without your work pass, I won't be able to enter the training room." Lianping paused for a moment and then said, "Just come and pick me up tomorrow." Alright. Sun Hao nodded excitedly. "I'll come and pick you up at 10 in the morning tomorrow." At 10 in the morning the next day, Lianping sat in Sun Hao's car and headed to the gathering location. The location was in a forest park. The people there were all members of Xia Dragonfinch, eating barbecue together. They were basically all ability users. As the forest park was very big and there were not many people, they could casually pick a corner to chat or play. There was not much pressure. When Lianping and Sun Hao arrived, they could already see over 10 men and women sitting in a circle. Among them, there were two people who attracted the most attention. One of them was an honest-looking middle-aged man, and the other was a young man who looked like a rich man. The reason why these two people attracted the most attention was because Lianping noticed that every movement of the people around them, whether intentionally or not, was centered around these two people. Sun Hao whispered in Lianping's ear, "The one who looks like a farmer is called Shindong. He can be considered one of the old people here. The one who looks very rich is called Qian Duoduo. He's even stronger than me. We can all be considered part of Boss Xia's faction. There are also many people who followed Boss Xia to the north. They didn't stay in Tianjing." Lianping nodded and walked toward the crowd. Sun Hao greeted a few acquaintances. With his strength, he was obviously quite popular in Xia Dragonfinch. As he greeted the people, he introduced Lianping. "This is Lianping. He's someone that Boss Xia values. He's very powerful." Everyone just nodded at Lianping and didn't pay too much attention to him. It was as if there was an invisible wall between Lianping and them. Shindong glanced at Lianping indifferently and said, "You're Lianping, right? I'm Shindong. I can be considered your senior. I heard that you've been letting our people clean up your mess recently?" Feeling that Shindong seemed to have some inexplicable hostility, Lianping casually replied, "If you're talking about cleaning up the aftermath of my murder, then that should be the case." Ha. Then you really have a lot of face. Does Xia Laikong treat you like his own son?" Shindong laughed a few times. Suddenly, his face turned cold, and the surrounding air seemed to have become cold. Several colleagues on the side seemed to have felt Shindong's abnormality. They kept looking at Lianping and Shindong. To be honest, although they hadn't seen Lianping, they knew what Xia Laikong had done for Lianping, and what Lianping had done recently in Tianjing. There were even a few of them who were responsible for dealing with Lianping's aftermath. Their attitude toward Lianping was naturally different. Some hated Shindong, and some admired him like Sun Hao. Of course, there were also those who didn't care and didn't care. For example, when everyone's eyes were on Shindong and Lianping, Qian Duoduo didn't even raise his head. He just stared at the food on the table, and no one knew what he was thinking. In his eyes, whether it was Shindong or Lianping, they were just small waves in the ocean. It might cause a stir, but it wasn't enough to change the tide. Shindong saw that everyone's eyes were on him, so he said, "Why aren't you answering? I heard that you've been using our training room recently. You haven't joined Xia Dragonfinch yet, right?" You want to use our room, spend our money, and even have us clean up your mess. Old Xia really thinks of himself as your nanny. Lianping was too lazy to care about Shindong. His doubts were reasonable, but he didn't have the obligation to explain for him. Sun Hao stood up and said, I think Lianping deserves this respect. I've been training with him recently, and I can only say that Boss Xia didn't make a mistake. Shindong stared at Sun Hao. Haozi, what does this have to do with you? You think he's qualified just because you say so? You think you're the best here? I've worked so hard for so many years to get to where I am now, unlike some people. After he finished speaking, he coldly glanced at Lianping. Other than Sun Hao, who stood on Lianping's side, Shindong's colleagues all looked at Lianping with scrutinizing eyes. Sun Hao retorted a few more times, but he was stopped by Shindong, who took advantage of his seniority. At this moment, Qian Duoduo, who had been in a daze, looked helplessly at Sun Hao. This guy, why can't he change his habit of being a nice guy? It's the same everywhere. Isn't he meddling in other people's business? If Lianping were to join the great Xia Dragonfinch in the future, his life would be even more difficult. Boss Xia would not be able to protect him forever. Thinking of this, Qian Duoduo stood up. Are you done? It's enough for an old man to bully a newcomer. Shindong, you've been working in the Xia Dragonfinch for so many years. Are you going to make life difficult for a newcomer today? Shindong wanted to retort, but when he saw the coldness in Qian Duoduo's eyes, he trembled inexplicably, as if he had thought of something terrible. He mumbled and turned away. Bastard, Qian Duoduo, you're still wet behind the ears. Wait until I'm under His Highness, see how I'll torture you to death. Stay under Xia Laikong and wait for your death. When Qian Duoduo saw that Shindong had stopped talking, he didn't pursue the matter. After all, the other party had more experience than him, so he couldn't be too rude. He looked at Sun Hao, who was winking at him, shook his head, sighed, and sat back down. As for Lianping, he didn't even look at him. He had only interrupted to help Sun Hao out. After that, the group began to barbecue. However, when eating and talking, everyone except Sun Hao, intentionally or unintentionally distanced themselves from Lianping by a certain distance. Their thoughts were no more than the following. Some people thought, although Lianping's strength is not bad, his qualifications and battle experience are far inferior to Shindong's. Since Shindong doesn't like Lianping, why should he take the risk of offending Shindong and befriend Lianping? Some people thought of their own past, another arrogant newcomer. Basically, everyone who joins the Xia Dragonfinch will go through this process. Before joining, they think that their abilities are unparalleled and that their days of being invincible are just around the corner. Then, after joining, they see one real monster after another, and their confidence is constantly destroyed. They either become disheartened or desperately try to become stronger. There were also some people who had opinions about Lianping's actions and thought that he was a dangerous person. Being too extreme is not a good thing. Lianping is just like that. He keeps killing people, even if they're all bad people, and he's already above the law and the country. Whether it's his thoughts or his actions, they're all too dangerous. If one day he gains great power, no one knows what will happen. Unfortunately, in the Xia Dragonfinch, he really has such a chance. Chapter 91. In the lively gathering, Lianping was soon isolated. Even if Sun Hao wanted to accompany Lianping, he was soon dragged away to play games. After eating the barbecue, everyone organized a dodgeball game. Other than Lianping and a few ability users who didn't like sports, everyone else participated. Sun Hao walked in front of Lianping and asked if he wanted to play, but Lianping refused. Then, Sun Hao was dragged away. His speed was very useful in dodgeball games. He was considered a main player. Lianping watched from outside for a while and found that the rules of this game were similar to ordinary people's. They were divided into 2 teams and threw the ball to each other. They could catch the ball, but if the ball hit their body, they would be eliminated. Obviously, Sun Hao's reaction and speed were very suitable for this game. After dodging all kinds of balls, no one threw a ball to him. Li Anping also saw the other people's abilities. For example, Qian Duoduo's ability seemed to be psychokinesis. The ball would always slow down in front of him, and then he would pick it up and throw it out. The ball he threw out was shockingly powerful. Even if the opponent could catch it, they would often be knocked out. There was also Shindong. His speed wasn't as fast as Sun Hao, and his strength was only at the level of an ordinary soldier. Li Anping couldn't see his ability, but he didn't get eliminated because of his experience and skills. As expected of someone who had been working in Dixia Dragonfinch for more than 10 years, he did have some ability. During the game, Shindong gave Li Anping a few provocative looks. However, all of them were ignored by Li Anping. After watching for a while, Li Anping left. He walked towards the forest and planned to stroll around the forest park. After staying in the city for so long, it was rare to see so much green. He felt good. However, on the field, Shindong was also knocked out by a ball a few minutes after Li Anping left. "What's going on, old Shin? Usually, you and young Master Qian are the ones who last until the end. Did you fool around somewhere last night? Don't spout nonsense." Shindong joked with a few of his teammates. "Everyone makes mistakes. Just watch me in the second round. I'm going to the bathroom first." With that, he walked in the direction of the bathroom. However, after entering the forest, a cold smile appeared on his face as he looked in the direction where Li Anping had disappeared. Li Anping strolled through the forest, looking at the boundless sea of trees in front of him. His eyes were blank, because he was thinking about something as he walked. He had been in Tianjing for some time, and his strength had improved a lot. He had also done a lot of things that he wanted to do, but he found that he was becoming less and less concerned about human lives. In the past month, he had killed many people. Perhaps he would kill even more people in the future. But was there any point in doing so? He had killed so many people, but as far as he could see, there were still endless sins in this world. As he devoured more and more souls, Li Anping felt that his murderous nature seemed to be getting stronger and stronger. He also liked to use brute force more and more. He did not know what this meant, but he liked this feeling. Whether it was Dixia Dragonfinch, the government, or the army, he knew that as he became stronger day by day, none of these could stop him. This world should operate according to my will. They should revolve around me. When this thought first appeared, Li Anping suspected that Black had awakened. However, no matter how he called, he did not receive any response from Black. Then, the same thought popped up again and again. Originally, Xia Likong treated Li Anping very well, so Li Anping was willing to give Xia Likong some face. However, as Li Anping became stronger and stronger, he was more and more unwilling to accept the shackles of the world. This was almost like an instinct that kept emerging from his heart. Black's words once again rang in Li Anping's heart. "Li Anping, you were born a demon. In the heart of your pursuit of justice for more than 20 years, you hid the deepest malice of mankind. To you, killing is as natural as breathing. Destroying lives is as simple as wearing clothes or eating. These are all your instincts. This is the real you." A faint red spread in Li Anping's eyes. In his consciousness, there seemed to be countless souls wailing. At this moment, with a whoosh, a stone suddenly flew from behind Li Anping's head. Li Anping tilted his head and dodged the stone. He turned his head and looked coldly in the direction where the stone came from. Shindong looked at him and smiled viciously. Then, he slowly walked over. "I'll apologize to you first." Shindong shrugged and smiled. "What I'm going to do to you next is purely to vent my anger." Shindong clenched his fists and continued, "If you don't resist, we can end this quickly. Don't worry, I'll just break a few of your bones. I won't kill you." However, after Shen Dong said this, he realized that Li Anping had disappeared. Only then did he realize that Fang Xinjian had walked past him. How is this possible? How did he do it? Shen Dong gathered a large ball of psyche in his right hand and was about to blast it toward Li Anping, who had just walked past him. However, he only turned halfway when he felt a sharp pain at the back of his head. Then, his vision turned black and he fainted on the ground. Before he fainted, Shen Dong's heart had been shrouded in fear. Whether it was Li Anping's strange speed or his careless appearance, everything pointed to one fact. The man in front of him, Li Anping, was a monster whose strength was far beyond his. Seeing that Shen Dong had been knocked out, Li Anping withdrew his right hand and didn't even look at Shen Dong, who was on the ground. To him, he had just walked past him casually and then casually hit the back of his head with his palm. As for whether Shen Dong was dead or alive, Li Anping didn't care. He had already given Xia Likong face by not killing him directly with one punch. However, in this way, he was not in the mood to continue attending the party. Without saying goodbye to Sun Hao, Li Anping went home alone. When Li Anping returned home, he had nothing to do. After surfing the net for a while, he thought that it would be better to practice on the lawn. He first pressed his legs and then did a set of warm-up exercises. Then, he suddenly waved his palm across the air. The white shock wave dispersed countless leaves of grass. Li Anping reluctantly stopped. He didn't dare to continue practicing, or else he would destroy the lawn again. Li Anping could only practice the basic movements like straight punches, side kicks, and uppercut. However, even if it was some basic fighting movements, Li Anping practiced very seriously. Every bit of strength was meticulous. It looked as accurate as a textbook. The foundation was the foundation of everything. No matter how powerful the martial arts were, the root of it was the combination of these basic skills. Li Anping practiced for more than 2 hours. When Xia Yunyun walked out of the gate, she saw Li Anping standing on the lawn and practicing straight punches. Xia Yunyun put down the phone in her hand. She looked at Li Anping in surprise and said sarcastically, "How rare. How long has it been since I saw you practice like this?" Li Anping replied while practicing, "I've been practicing. It's just that you haven't seen it." Xia Yunyun curled her lips. She was too lazy to argue with Li Anping. She looked at the phone and dialed again. However, no one picked up. It was a voicemail. Xia Yunyun said angrily, "Song Tian, you've grown up, haven't you? If you have the guts, don't call me back. Let me tell you, if you don't apologize to me by 12 o'clock today, don't ever call me again." Li Anping asked, "Did you guys have a fight?" "He actually dared to stand me up," Xia Yunyun said angrily. "He made me wait for 2 hours in vain. Then he said something came up and stood me up. I'm so angry." Li Anping felt a little strange. Didn't Song Tian usually want to accompany Xia Yunyun 24/7? Why did he stand her up this time? And he didn't even call to apologize. Then Xia Yunyun made a few more calls. Song Tian didn't pick up any of them. Xia Yunyun almost exploded in anger. Li Anping felt that something was wrong. On the other side, Song Tian looked at the noisy phone and turned it to silent. He picked up the landline next to him and made a call. "Hello, how's it going?" Shen Dong's voice came from the other end. It's fine." Song Tian frowned and said, "Make it clear." Shen Dong's voice seemed to be a little hesitant. "Don't worry, young Master Song. I taught him a lesson. He vomited blood. But after all, Xia Likong is protecting him. I hid him in places that couldn't be detected and didn't leave him with any injuries. Didn't I say you don't need to worry about Xia Likong? How did you do it?" Shen Dong said seriously, "That won't do. After all, Xia Likong is also a level 5 ability user. If he really gets angry, forget it. I'll do it myself." Song Tian hung up and looked at his phone. When the phone flashed again, he saw the name Xia Yunyun on the screen. Song Tian revealed a cold smile. When your grandfather isn't protecting you, see how I'll play with you. Chapter 92. This week, because of a small recommendation, every day until Sunday, there will be 3 chapters at 10 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 2200 hours. But the current results of this book are really bad, it doesn't even exceed 300. But the readers who can read this chapter still have some expectations for this book. Thank you very much. Originally, I don't like to talk about these things in chapters, but now the results are too bleak. I just hope that the friends who read this and think that this book is okay can help me and click on the bookmark button and give me a few recommendation tickets. Thank you. The next day, Li Anping received a call from Li Qian early in the morning. Wei Shishi's matter is a bit strange. How strange? Li Anping asked. He asked Li Qian to investigate Wei Shishi's matter some time ago. This is a little bit of information he left behind in Zhongdu. Li Anping originally asked Li Qian to investigate Wei Shishi's whereabouts, and then he will personally take revenge. I checked Wei Shishi's file, it seems that there is no problem. But after sending people to do a field check, I found that her high school, junior high school, elementary school, all her experiences are fake. I sent people to investigate her class. No one knows her at all. Li Anping's eyes narrowed, like a tiger hunting for food. That means you can't find her? Not yet. I checked again and found that Wei Shishi may be related to a certain government department. Li Anping said, I don't care about this, I just want you to find her. No matter what, this woman must die. I understand. Li Anping hung up the phone and once again recalled the things in Zhongdu. Thinking that Wei Shishi is not dead, he can't help but have a tyrannical feeling in his heart. Gotcha. Li Anping directly squeezed the landline on the side and cracked it. He took a deep breath and directly threw the phone into the trash can. At this moment, the sound of footsteps could be heard from the stairs. Xia Yunyun walked down the stairs with an anxious look on her face. What's wrong? Grandpa. Grandpa is in trouble. Xia Yunyun's face was full of panic. Grandpa was ambushed by the Fire Dragon Vanguard and is seriously injured. I have to go see him. Where is he? I will go with you. Xia Yunyun hurriedly put on her clothes. When she heard Li Anping's words, she shook her head. He was sent to a secret hospital, you can't go in. I'll go first. Looking at Xia Yunyun's back as she left, Lise. He Shishi. Something big has happened. The strongest warrior of the Flame Dragon Vanguard, the Nether King, teamed up with the Thunder Emperor, the White Short Star, and the Blood Demon to ambush Xia Laikong. Although he managed to escape in the end, he was severely injured and on the verge of death. Any one of these 4 names in the north would make anyone's heart tremble. They were Fire Dragon Vanguards, only 4 level 5 ability users. No one would have thought that they would ambush Xia Laikong at the same time. How is that possible? Xia Laikong's draconic elephant reincarnations only needs 1 clone to be able to revive. How could he be seriously injured? Li Anping said in disbelief. Li Qian's voice sounded very worried. I don't know, that's not the problem now. Shundong and a group of people were transferred 10 minutes ago. Xia Laikong's men are now half gone. Plus, he's seriously injured and on the verge of death. We don't know if he can be saved. Our position now is very awkward. Li Anping thought for a while and said, Don't worry, continue to pay attention to these things and contact me at any time. Don't worry, I'm here. Okay. Li Qian hung up. In the next few weeks, things took a turn for the worse, developing faster than Li Anping expected. Xia Yunyun left early and returned late every day. No one knew what she was busy with. However, Xia Laikong's body seemed to be deteriorating day by day, and the current medical treatment was unable to cure him. The men he brought with him were also killed in the ambush. And in Tianjing, when it rains, it pours. Shundong brought a group of people to join Song Bang's side, and Xiao Yekong's men immediately fell apart. Many of Xiao Yekong's authority, position, and power were eroded. Only a small group of people, led by the Qian Duo and Sun Hao, remained. The families, businesses, and various forces that were on good terms with Xia Likong also became cowards at the same time. The people who used to think of all sorts of ways to flatter Xia Yunyun were now avoiding her in all sorts of ways. As a woman, Xia Yunyun could only watch as Xiao Yekong's authority and position were divided up in an instant. What was more troublesome was that Xia Likong lost the battle this time, implicating countless soldiers and causing hundreds of millions of losses. For a time, the army was denouncing him, and his assets were sealed. Even Xia Yunyun, Sun Hao, and even Li Qian had to be investigated. Yunyun, I'm sorry, I have to prepare for the overseas study exam. My mother told me not to go out for a while. Let's meet again next time. Yunyun, Uncle has been too busy recently. I'll come look for you when I'm done. Yunyun, this matter has blown up. His Majesty is furious, and even King Song has been scolded badly. No one dares to step forward. Song Tian, please help me. Xia Yunyun looked pitifully at Song Tian. This was the man who she used to call whenever she wanted. This time, she waited at his door for 3 whole hours before he finally showed up. Unexpectedly, Song Tian only smiled and said, I'm sorry, Yunyun. But you must know that the situation at the northern front is very tense, and Elder Xia lost the battle this time. My grandfather is also under a lot of pressure. How can Elder Xia's position be left empty at a time like this? I know and I understand. But my grandfather needs to receive the best treatment. They want to remove him from the leader's hospital and transfer him to a normal hospital. Xia Yunyun grabbed Song Tian's arm and pleaded, just let Uncle Song say something. My grandfather's injuries are really serious. If he's transferred to a normal hospital now, it'll take his life. Moreover, my bank cards have been frozen. I can't afford the medical fees right now. Song Tian smiled and put his mouth close to Xia Yunyun's ear. He said in a low voice, sleep with me for a night, and I'll help you. Xia Yunyun was stunned. Then she swung her palm at Song Tian. However, Song Tian casually caught it. Seeing Xia Yunyun glaring at him with eyes that were spitting fire, Song Tian smiled and said, Xia Yunyun, didn't I chase after you in the past because you had a good grandfather? But I'm telling you now, your grandfather is finished. He's dead for sure. But if you come to me now, you can still sell me for a good price. In a few days, you won't even be able to sell me for this little price. You bastard. Xia Yunyun waved her other hand, which was covered with Nian Qi, at Song Tian. With a bang, Xia Yunyun touched her cheek and fell to the ground. She looked at Song Tian in disbelief. Song Tian laughed and said, Do you think you're still the young lady of the past? Let me tell you, if your grandfather wasn't Xia Likong, do you think I would chase after you so wholeheartedly? Do you think you're beautiful? Let me tell you, at this level, I could have slept with anyone at the age of 16. With a few sneers, Song Tian walked past Xia Yunyun and left. He still said, Call me when you figure it out. You know my phone number, ha ha ha. Xia Yunyun returned home in a daze. She didn't even notice that it was raining. Lianping looked at Xia Yunyun stumbling toward the stairs. He blocked her path and said, What's wrong with you? Why didn't you use an umbrella when it's raining? You're all wet. It's all over. Haha, there's no one to rely on. None of them are good people. Xia Yunyun shouted, They're all a bunch of bastards who eat people without spitting out their bones. Lianping watched as Xia Yunyun scolded her former friends, sisters, uncles and uncles. She scolded them until she was hoarse. Are you all right? I'm fine. I'll go up and rest for a while. Xia Yunyun said expressionlessly. Seeing Xia Yunyun walk up the stairs, Lianping couldn't help but say, If you need any help, tell me. I can think of a way. Xia Yunyun suddenly turned around and looked at Lianping. She laughed and said, I thought I had a lot of friends, but in the end, you're the only one willing to help me. The next moment, Xia Yunyun shook her head and said, Thank you for your good intentions, but I don't need your help right now. I'll take care of it. When I need you, I'll tell you. Xia Yunyun didn't believe that Lianping, a level 1 ability user, could take care of the current situation. She only said this because she didn't want to hurt Lianping's good intentions. In the following half a month, the situation became worse and worse. The other level 5 ability user that Xia Laikong was on good terms with, Flying General, was still fighting on the northern front. It was rumored that he and Zhurong were working together, but they were always suppressed by the enemy's Blood Devil, White Short Star, and Lei Di. Moreover, the enemy's strongest Pluto hadn't made a move yet. Xia Dragonfinch was already preparing a troop to reinforce the northern front. However, the lack of a level 5 ability user wasn't that easy to make up for. The normal people still thought that they were living in an era of peace, but among the upper echelons of Tianjing, the smell of war was getting heavier and heavier. A feeling of an impending storm filled the entire Xia Dragonfinch. However, Lianping's life was still pretty much the same as before. Every day, he would go online and kill some bad guys. However, now, other than Li Qian, there was no one left to deal with the aftermath. Sun Hao also didn't have time to take him to the training room. He could only casually train at home every day. In addition to his previous gains, his current physical fitness had reached 6. 4 in strength, 5. 3 in agility, and 7. 2 in stamina. How is it? Lianping asked Li Qian on the other end of the phone. It's not optimistic. The doctor has already given Xia Laikong the death sentence. He said that he'll probably be in a vegetative state for the rest of his life. Li Qian said, although Qian Duo and Sun Hao have been holding on, they've already made the list. They'll be sent to the northern front together under Zhurong's command. Xiao Yekong's ambush was very strange. After it happened, a bunch of people immediately hit him while he was down. Shindong also followed him out. Don't you think it's too much of a coincidence? Li Qian said in surprise. Are you saying there's a conspiracy? I don't know. I just think it's too much of a coincidence. Also, what about Wei Shishir? It's a little strange. I can't find any information about her. Either she doesn't exist, or all her information has been deliberately destroyed. If there's really someone who can do this, I'm afraid he or she has a high position in Xia's government. Is that so? In Song Bang's office, Shindong was standing in front of the office, looking at him with a flattering expression. Sit down. I have something to ask you. Go ahead, go ahead. I'll just stand. Lianping, do you think he's worth recruiting? Song Bang looked at him and said, Recently, when I was cleaning up the trash left by Xia Laikong, I saw some information about him. I have to admit that I made a mistake. How could that be? Shindong was excited, but he immediately calmed himself down. He knew that being too excited would make him look suspicious, so he said calmly, I won't hide it from you. I originally thought that this Lianping had a lot of potential and wanted to get on his good side. But in the end, this kid was completely ungrateful. He didn't take us seniors seriously at all, and even came to challenge me alone. Oh, he challenged you? Yes, he came alone secretly. Just the two of us. Shindong boasted shamelessly. In the end, I took care of him in 2 or 3 moves. I saw that the reports about him were all exaggerated. His ability is not bad, but he's only strong and fast. There's nothing else. Also, he's inexperienced. When he meets someone with a slightly targeted ability, he's immediately caught off guard. Okay. Song Bang nodded. I got it. You can go. Okay, then you do what you need to do. If there's anything, feel free to call me. Seeing that Shindong had left, Song Bang looked at Lianping's information on the computer. After looking at it for a few minutes, he opened another file. It was all about Li Qian's data, especially the documents she had recently borrowed and the files she had flipped through. When he saw the name Wei Shishir, Song Bang's eyes flashed with a cold light. He thought for a while, and in the end, he directly deleted Li Anping and Li Qian's files. Since he had made the decision, the information of these two people was meaningless in his eyes. Chapter 93. Li Anping was lying on the bed. The TV was playing a piece of news. Breaking news: a group of armed criminals rushed into the Blue City airport. They cut down anyone they saw. There were casualties at the scene. After a large number of police officers arrived at the scene, gunshots were heard from the airport. At present, the Blue City Airport road has been completely blocked. When he saw the news, Li Anping suddenly jumped up and turned on the computer on the desk. He knew that this kind of news must be spread the fastest on the internet. The news reported on the TV is often a step behind. He went on the internet and looked at the forum. Sure enough, there were already many posts about the violent conflict. There were also many photos taken by passers-by at the scene. Li Anping roughly looked at them and estimated that this attack was not as simple as a simple violent conflict. 3 hours later, Xia Yunyun knocked on Li Anping's door. Her face was still wet with tears. "Grandpa woke up, he wants to see you." "Okay." Li Anping did not say anything, put on a coat and followed Xia Yunyun out. After going out, he and Xia Yunyun got into a black car. The car was followed by several vans and motorcycles. He did not know if they were protecting or monitoring. After driving for a few kilometers, the motorcade directly turned into a remote square and then drove down a passage into the underground. After entering the underground, the windows of the car were covered with a layer of black, so that the people sitting in the car could not see the scene outside the car. The motorcade drove in the passage. Every few kilometers they would be checked. The entire underground looked like a steel structure. It was completely a militarized underground base. Li Anping sat in the car and looked very patient. Even when he was asked to be searched, he did not show a trace of impatience. Xia Yunyun, who sat next to him, could not help but ask, "Aren't you curious why they called you here? You'll know when you get there." Hearing Li Anping's answer, Xia Yunyun stopped talking. The convoy calmly drove through the underground tunnel. At first, Li Anping was able to determine the approximate location based on the center of gravity of the car, the displacement, the sounds outside the car, and the flow of the air. However, as the route of the convoy became more and more complicated, Li Anping gradually lost his sense of direction. 20 minutes later, Li Anping's nose suddenly smelled the fragrance of soil, grass, and trees. Then, the darkness on the window suddenly dissipated, revealing the scene outside the car. Woods, sunshine, fields and gardens. The motorcade stopped in front of the white building in the middle of the garden. Li Anping got out of the car and looked at the greenery around him. He then looked up at the sunlight above his head. He asked, "Are we still underground?" "Yes, all of them are man-made environments. The doctors believe that such environments are conducive to the recovery of patients." Li Anping shrugged and followed Xia Yunyun to the hospital. Behind them were more than a dozen uniformed soldiers. Xia Laikong was still in the intensive care unit. Before entering, Li Anping and Xia Yunyun were asked to enter the disinfection room and change their clothes. When Li Anping entered the ward, he saw an old man lying on the bed like a mummy. His face was withered, and his limbs were as thin as matchsticks. Xia Laikong's body was filled with catheters. All kinds of unknown liquids Li Anping could not identify were constantly being injected into his body. When he saw Li Anping, the corner of his mouth revealed an ugly smile. "I was careless. I didn't expect to be ambushed. There's no need to greet me. If you have anything to say, just say it. I'll help you if I can." Xia Laikong opened his mouth and wanted to smile, but it seemed to pull on his wound. His face revealed an ugly expression. Xia Yunyun asked anxiously, Grandpa, are you okay? I'm fine, Xiao Laikong said. Yun, you go out first. I'll talk to Li Anping alone for a while. Xia Yun hesitated for a moment, but finally left under Xiao Laikong's urging. In the hospital's monitoring room, Du Jiao stared at Xia Laikong and Li Anping on the screen. He was specially sent by Song Bang to monitor Xia Laikong. Why aren't they talking? Why are they just looking at each other? This is the power of the Phantom Dragon, one of Xiao Yekong's 8 dragons and 8 faces. They are communicating with their minds, Leng Hong said. Blue and white uniform, straight and slender legs, and a cold and beautiful face, full of uniform desire. Du Jiao glanced at Leng Hong. Although she was very beautiful, as an old partner, Du Jiao knew how vicious the beauty in front of him was. He did not linger on Leng Hong's beauty. Du Jiao asked directly, "Can you eavesdrop?" Leng Hong's ability was a kind of mental virus, which was also related to consciousness. That was why Du Jiao asked this question. I definitely can't under normal circumstances, but Xiao Laikong is seriously injured. I can give it a try. In the ward, Xiao Laikong and Li Anping looked at each other silently, but on the level of consciousness, they never stopped communicating. You saw the news this morning, right? Blue City Airport? Li Anping asked. He did not understand why Xia Laikong suddenly mentioned this matter. Yes, it's the work of the True God cult. They have been wanting to separate the northeast region of Blue City for a long time. This time, when they saw that I was seriously injured and on the verge of death, the pressure on the northern front suddenly increased, so they began to probe. What does it have to do with me? Li Anping was puzzled. I hope you can work with the people sent by Xia Dragonfinch to eliminate the rioters of the True God cult. Are you crazy? Li Anping said indifferently, At this time, why are you still concerned about the rioters? Don't worry, I'm fine. But in order to treat my injuries, I will fall into a deep sleep. This deep sleep may be a few months or it may be a few years. If I don't solve this matter, I won't be able to sleep peacefully. Xiao Yekong's pale face showed a smile. The current leader of the True God cult is Qing Chan. This time, he has made such a big move, so he must have a trump card. I know him very well, but Song Bang doesn't think so. His attention is all on the north, so he doesn't notice that there are many diseases in the empire. The people he sent definitely won't be able to win against Qing Chan. I hope you can go with them. The only person I can ask for help now is you. As long as Qing Chan is suppressed, other people in the country will not dare to follow the rioters. As for the problems abroad, I can only trust others. Li Anping also knew something about the True God cult. Some time ago, he had seen some news about the True God cult. He had also fought with the Holy Alliance of the True God cult. Could be said that this was one of the most powerful organizations among the people in Xia. Every move of theirs was related to the stability of the situation in Xia. Li Anping looked at Xia Laikong. After a long time, he responded, This time you were ambushed. Didn't you suspect your own people? Xia Laikong smiled and said, The overall situation is more important. Psycho. Li Anping directly scolded in the ward this time, then turned around and left. Xia Laikong just looked at him calmly. After a few steps, Li Anping thought that the True God cult must have a lot of followers, and the Holy Alliance must have a lot of high-level ability users. This was actually an open and above-board opportunity for him to eat. Through this battle, he could absorb the souls of many ability users to strengthen himself. So Li Anping turned around and looked at Xia Laikong and said, To be honest, these recent events have already made me very unhappy. I don't understand why you still bind yourself when you have such great power. But since you've helped me before, I'll go and destroy that cult. But for the following matters, I will act completely according to my own will. There's no need to talk about joining Xia Dragonfinch. I don't want to, and I don't want to be dragged down by those trash. After saying this, He didn't pay any more attention to Xia Likong and directly turned around and left. Xia Likong finally said, "During this period of rest, can you help me protect Yunyun?" Lianping stopped and coldly snorted, "You really know how to order people around. Don't worry, she won't die." In front of Song Bang's desk, Du Jiao and Ling Hong were reporting today's events. Ling Hong tried to eavesdrop on the conversation between Lianping and Xia Likong, but failed. But she saw Lianping leave angrily. Then, a few hours later, Xia Likong fell into a coma again. Song Bang heard the two of them, thought for a moment and said, "Okay, I got it. You can leave now." Yes. The two of them respectfully left. On his computer screen, there was an email from Xia Likong. It was an application for Lianping to participate in the assault against the True God cult as a special consultant. The two of them had a falling out? Xia Likong wants to sell out Lianping? Lianping is not worth much. Song Bang thought for a moment. To be safe, he decided to choose Shindong, Du Jiao and Ling Hong to go to Blue City together to eliminate the higher-ups of the True God cult. Shindong could suppress Lianping, and Xia Likong was in a coma again. Du Jiao and Ling Hong stayed in the hospital to monitor him. Plus, these three people's abilities could be matched with each other. There was no problem in completing the task. As for Lianping, Song Bang picked up a secret mobile phone and dialed a number. "Hello, Mr. Fang? I think the opportunity to promise you has come. I hope the last incident will not affect the relationship between our two countries." So, at the next day's battle meeting, the four of them decided to go to Blue City under Song Bang's instructions. They set off that day and returned the next day. On the other side, seeing that Xia Likong was in a coma again, Song Tian received a phone call. "Hello?" Song Tian picked up the phone casually, but the voice on the other side made him excited. "What, have you figured it out? Okay, I'll send someone to pick you up later. I'll wait for you at the hotel." After hanging up the phone, Song Tian laughed excitedly. His long-cherished wish had finally come true. How could he not be happy? How could he not be excited? He paced back and forth a few steps, and suddenly opened a cabinet in his room. There were various uniforms, ropes and asterisk in it. A trace of lust flashed in Song Tian's eyes. Chapter 94. On the runway of the military airport, Du Jiao, Ling Hong, and Shindong stood on one side and talked cheerfully. Only when they saw Lianping on the side would they sneer. But Du Jiao and Ling Hong didn't notice that whenever Shindong looked at Lianping, his eyes would always be evasive. There was a box beside Lianping's feet. Inside was his high-frequency knife. Lianping didn't pay attention to the three people. He took out his phone and called Li Qian. "Hello, I'm at the airport. Did you call Xia Yunyun?" "I called and asked him. I can see him anytime." Li Qian hinted that she had used her ability to monitor Xia Yunyun in order to prevent the phone from being tapped. Although Xia Yunyun was a level 3 ability user, Li Qian and Xia Yunyun knew each other. So asking a few more questions wouldn't arouse any suspicion. This was what Lianping told her to do. As long as she monitored Xia Yunyun every day, he could protect her. Li Qian asked softly, "When will you come back?" "It's 4 in the afternoon right now. I'll probably be back before 12. Don't worry, it's not much different from eating dinner." What Li Qian didn't know was that in many ways, Lianping going to the True God religion to kill people was no different from eating dinner for him. Okay, knowing that Lianping didn't like to be long-winded, Li Qian hung up the phone after a few words. At this time, Du Jiao, who was beside Lianping, also walked up. "Kid, I'm the leader of this operation. All the plans have to go according to what I say. Do you understand?" Lianping glanced at the fierce-looking man and didn't say anything. Du Jiao didn't mind. Ability users were above ordinary people. How many of them didn't have a bit of pride? He continued, We will use the assault boat to land directly at the True God cult's stronghold. When the time comes, you just have to stay where you are. We'll settle the rest. If you dare to make a move, I'll break your legs." Lianping coldly glanced at Du Jiao. Just as he was considering whether to break Du Jiao's arms and legs, Shin Dong walked up from the side. "All right, brother Jiao. There's no need to lower yourself to his level. Look, the plane is here. Let's go." After saying that, he pulled Du Jiao away and carefully sized up Lianping, as if he was afraid that the other party would flare up. "Old Shin, what are you doing? Don't pull me, I'm not done yet." The venomous Jiao dragon was directly pulled onto the plane by Shin Dong. Although he was the team leader in name, it was only because Shin Dong had just been transferred to Song Bang's team. Otherwise, regardless of whether it was in terms of experience or ability, Shin Dong should be the team leader. The group of 4 boarded the plane. After a series of roars, the plane flew up into the sky and headed toward the Blue City in the northeast. The cabin was divided into 2 sides, with a total of 20 seats. Each seat was encased in an egg-shaped structure. After Lianping sat down, a hole opened up under his feet, and a wardrobe containing clothes rose up. "Please put on your combat uniform immediately." Hearing the voice from the broadcast, Lianping took out his combat uniform. This was a set of black and gray clothing. The chest, abdomen, and other weak points of the body were covered with hard armor. The entire body except for the head was covered. What Lianping didn't know was that this combat uniform was not only resistant to cold, heat, and ventilation, but also resistant to cuts and cuts. It could even withstand gunfire from small-caliber rifles. There was also a communication system, a positioning system, and more than 20 tactical pockets inside. Even in the Xia army, only the Ace Special Forces could wear it. Although it couldn't be compared to the psychic defense of high-level ability users, it was still a very good tool. Not only Lianping, but also Du Jiao, Leng Hong, and Shin Dong in the cabin all put on their combat uniforms. No one would say that they were safer. Then Lianping plugged the earpiece into his ear according to the broadcast instructions and put the special contact lenses on the surface of his eyeballs. A few seconds later, a series of broken images flashed, and then Lianping saw a set of information. At the same time, a voice came from the earpiece. The heads of several people appeared in front of Lianping. The first young man with green hair is Qing Chan, the current leader of the True God sect. This violent terrorist attack was also planned by him. The remaining 3 men and 1 woman are the 4 emissaries of earth, water, wind, and fire. The doctrine of the True God sect believed that the world was made up of the 4 elements of earth, water, wind, and fire. The 4 emissaries represented the 4 elements, and their status in the sect was second only to the leader. They led the armed forces of the True God sect, the Holy Alliance, and took orders directly from Qing Chan. According to the observation of the members of Xia Dragonfinch in Blue City, the 4 emissaries should all be level 3 ability users, and the leader, Qing Chan, should be a top level 4 ability user. It was worth noting that the True God sect had a very deep foundation in Xia. It was rare for the 4 emissaries and the leader to gather together, so they had to kill all 4 of them at once as soon as possible. Otherwise, as long as one of them was left, given the number of followers of the True God sect, it would be enough to set off a storm in Xia. When Lianping finished reading the information, Du Jiao's voice came from the earpiece. "Then leave that Qing Chan to me. Old Shen, you and Leng Hong can each take 2 emissaries." Leng Hong said lightly, "No problem." Shin Dong glanced at Lianping subconsciously, and then said, "No problem for me." Lianping didn't pay attention to the 3 of them, and directly closed his eyes to sleep. When they saw his cowardly appearance, Leng Hong and the venomous Jiao dragon revealed a trace of disdain. They were even more convinced that the other party was at the mercy of others because his backer was gone. Only Shin Dong's heart was full of contradictions. He didn't expect to be sent together with the emissaries after Song Bang said that he could easily suppress Lianping. How can this be? How can this be? How can I be with this monster? Shen Dong peeked at Lianping's sleeping appearance, and his mind was in a mess. I can't let others know that Lianping is stronger than me. I can't give him a chance to attack. But is he really stronger than me? Last time I fainted directly. Could it be that I accidentally fell into his trap? No matter what, his ability level is only level 1. Could it be that his ability is level 1? After thinking about it, Shen Dong's eyes gradually became firm. No matter what, for safety's sake, don't give him a chance to attack. Use the fastest time to kill Qing Chan and the 4 emissaries. I'll find a chance to test him later. Up until now, the few people present didn't take the true God religion's ability users seriously. 2 hours later, under the night sky, the plane finally arrived in the sky above Blue City. The announcement in the cabin sounded. We have arrived at our destination. Please get ready. The assault boat will be launched in 5 minutes. We have arrived at our destination. Please get ready. The assault boat will be launched in 5 minutes. Lianping's face showed a hint of strangeness. They were still high in the sky. Although he could feel the plane gradually descending, what did it mean to launch the assault boat in 5 minutes? Du Jiao saw Lianping's puzzled look and sneered. Silly boy, we're going down later. Don't be so scared that you pee in your pants. If that happens, Xia Dragonfinch's face will be lost because of you. Leng Hong, who was at the side, also laughed when she heard this. Only Shen Dong had a serious look on his face. He wanted to attack the moment they landed. He wanted to complete the mission in the shortest time possible and kill all the target. A few minutes later, the plane shook and the 4 people's seats began to sink gradually. The original egg-shaped structure was covered by a layer of metal. Then, some blue liquid was filled into the egg-shaped sphere. As a whole, it looked like a black metal egg was filled with liquid. Lianping and the other 3 people were in this liquid. The buffer liquid in the assault boat doesn't affect breathing. After landing, the buffer liquid will evaporate in a few seconds after coming into contact with the air. It won't affect the user's combat ability. Following the instructions in the headset, Lianping took a deep breath in the liquid and found that there was no problem with breathing. Boom! Lianping only felt his body sink, and a strong feeling of falling spread over him. Looking from the outside, 4 black metal eggs were thrown down directly. They were like black meteors falling toward a huge palace on the ground. Looking from mid-air, the palace below them was about the size of an ordinary town. More than 100,000 believers of the true God religion gathered here. This was the sacred ground of the true God religion for several hundred years. Every day, tens of thousands of believers would come here to worship. After falling from a height of several thousand meters, the assault boat's speed exceeded 100 meters per second in just over 10 seconds. The entire cabin was shaking at a crazy speed. Lianping could hear a terrifying whistling sound. It was the sound of the assault boat cutting through the air. Wow! Du Jiao's shout could be heard from the headset. Brat, you didn't piss your pants, did you? If you did, stay in the assault boat and don't come out. Otherwise, I'll beat you until half your body is paralyzed. Ha 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 ha! Amidst Du Jiao's maniacal laughter, 4 huge metal eggs fell from the sky and smashed into the true God religion's palace like meteors. After a series of earth-shattering noises, a large number of buildings started to collapse. Cries of shock and agony could be heard continuously. Amidst this chaos, 3 experts filled with malice stepped onto this sacred ground. Chapter 95. Just before the assault boat landed, in a large hall in the center of the true God religion, a man in a white robe with green hair was sitting on the throne in the center. There were 4 people standing below him. The man's face looked perfect and flawless. It was a face that could make people feel ashamed of their own inferiority. The handsome man was looking at the sky and muttering, "They're here. Your Majesty." A man's voice came from the mouth of a man who was covered in rocks and looked more like a monster than a human. "Leave this to us. Your body is priceless. You shouldn't be standing on the front line." It's okay, Boulder. Desya Dragonfinch doesn't understand our situation at all. They'll only send small fries this time." The man in the white robe smiled. "Kill them all." "Yes." The four of them replied at the same time. Then, with a swoosh, they all disappeared. Only the man in the white robe, or Ching Chan, was left sitting on the throne alone. When the assault boat hit the ground, the entire palace began to shake violently. Stones and dust kept falling from the ceiling. The man didn't care at all. He just looked at the place where the sound of the collision came from with a cold smile. The psychic energy on his body almost filled the entire hall and protected it. It seemed that no matter how strong the vibration was, it wouldn't be able to destroy the hall. It gave people a feeling that it was as powerful as a prison and as powerful as the sea. Even people who didn't have any religion would have the illusion of being a god if they appeared here. Almost at the moment when the assault boat hit the ground, Shundong had already recovered. He opened the cabin door and rushed out. The assault boats of the other three people were more than 10 meters away from him. They were in different rooms. Shundong used his psychic energy to sense and immediately sensed the existence of Ching Chan. That enormous psychic energy was as obvious as the moon in the dark night. It was impossible not to notice it. Peak level 4? Shundong, who was in the middle of a battle, was calmer than usual. He carefully sensed the situation of the opponent's psychic energy. "I didn't sense anything from the other 4 emissaries, but there are still a lot of small fries. They're all level 1 and 2 aptitude users. They should be the Holy Alliance's soldiers. Let's go check out Ching Chan's situation first. If possible, we'll get rid of him." Thinking up to this point, Shundong compared the map displayed on the contact lens. Then, he took a step forward and his whole body floated up. Then, he stepped on the wall and his whole body flew out like an arrow. This was his ability, weight control. He could freely control the amount of gravity his body was subjected to. On Li Anping's side, he landed at the same place as Du Jiao and Ling Hong. Where they were, the entire house had been reduced to rubble. When Ling Hong rushed out of the assault boat, Du Jiao was already standing outside. She looked at Du Jiao and said, "There are masters." "Yeah." Du Jiao twisted his neck, looked at Ching Chan's location, and said, "I'll go first." Li Anping's assault boat did not react at all, let alone open up. Li Anping did not walk out from inside, and there was no sound from his earpiece either. It was as if he had lost consciousness. The two of them did not ask about Li Anping's situation. In fact, many level 1 newbies would faint from fright when they were transported down from an assault boat for the first time. After all, not everyone was so courageous and had such a good physique. After seeing Du Jiao's figure disappear, Ling Hong looked at the broken walls and wreckage around her. Suddenly, she accelerated and ran to the side. Just as she ran, a green figure chased after her closely. Clouds of air surrounded him, making it impossible to see his figure clearly. The two of them, one chasing and the other escaping, moved at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, they had crossed a distance of several hundred meters. That figure chased after Ling Hong as he said, "Very sharp observation skills. However, you won't be able to escape. After I kill you, I'll go and kill your accomplice. Who knows, he might have already been killed by my accomplice." "Escape? You seem to have misunderstood something." Ling Hong suddenly turned and stopped. She looked at the green figure behind her and said, "The master we're talking about isn't you. It's him." Ling Hong pointed to Ching Chan's location and said, "Such astonishing chi. It's as obvious as the sun. It's hard not to notice it." As for Du Jiao, he just can't be bothered with the small fries. Ling Hong waved her hand and two figures suddenly dashed out from the surrounding shadows. One of them rushed towards the figure who was surrounded by clouds of air, while the other took out a machine gun and shot at the figure. A terrifying tearing sound was heard. Before the person who dashed forward got close to the figure, he was swept up by a gray tornado and torn into countless pieces. As for the people who were shooting, the bullets were all blocked by the high-speed rotating gale when they hit the green figure. Then, he was also torn into pieces by the tornado. But when the figure in the air saw the broken body under his feet, he let out an angry roar. The two people who suddenly appeared were actually dressed in the Holy Alliance's uniform. Then, one after another, people appeared around Ling Hong. They were all soldiers of the Holy Alliance. But now, their eyes were dull, and their muscles were bulging. They looked more like zombies than humans. This was Ling Hong's ability, mental virus. She looked at the silhouette in the air and said, "Look at you, you are the wind messenger, right? When I was moving just now, I gathered some toys. Now I can play with you." Humph. The wind messenger snorted coldly and controlled a gust of wind to transmit his voice. "Everyone stay away from here. I will deal with her alone." The next moment, a terrifying wave spread out from the wind messenger's body. Like the end of the world, the wind covered the surrounding 300 meters. Ling Hong's face also changed at this moment. Level 4 ability user. The place where the 3 assault boats landed was now surrounded by the soldiers of the true God religion. Some of them were ability users of the Holy Alliance, and some were fully armed ordinary people. A man wearing a bulletproof vest and holding a submachine gun knocked on the assault boat that Li Anping was on. With a confused face, he said, "Why didn't this egg open? There's nothing inside? It can't be broken, right? Should we find a saw to cut it open?" Just when they were discussing what to do, in the darkness, a strong man slowly walked over. It might not be right to call him a man, because his body was covered by a layer of fine black scales. Even his head was covered. He didn't look like a human anymore. If there was someone here who knew what was what, he would recognize that this was the ability of the royal family of the Baiwe country, Kirin blood. And it looked much stronger than Fong Chi's. Unfortunately, none of the people here recognized the Kirin blood. "Who are you? Stop, or we'll shoot." Facing the threats of these people, the man only looked at them with contempt. The next moment, he rushed into the crowd. Death, screams, and blood bloomed in an instant. It was like a wolf rushing into a flock of sheep. Machine guns were ineffective. Ordinary bullets couldn't penetrate the man's scales. Those ordinary level 1 and level 2 ability users were also useless. They couldn't even compare to machine guns, which could make the attacker retreat a few steps. The man wearing the black scales just casually broke their necks and tore open their chests. In less than 2 minutes, he killed more than 30 people present. Blood spilled all over his body and slowly flowed down from the scales. Then, he showed a troubled expression and looked at the assault boat that Li Anping was on. According to the information, there are a total of 4 people attacking here. Li Anping is one of them. He thought, "My mission this time is to kill Li Anping and avenge Fong Chi. But why is this guy hiding in the assault boat? This assault boat is not damaged even after being brought down from thousands of meters high. It's not ordinary sturdiness. With this kind of super alloy shell, even if a tank's main cannon bombarded it, it would be difficult to damage it. I can't open it by myself. Do I have to take him away? Should I try electric shock? Burn him? But where can I find the equipment here?" The man approached Li Anping's assault boat. He knocked on the surface of the boat and shook his head unhappily. But after thinking about it, he still punched it with a little force. With a bang, the man only felt a shock that made his hand a little numb. And the surface of the assault boat didn't leave a single mark. This thing is purely made of steel. It can't be broken by brute force. Are the people from Desya Dragonfinch all crazy? Using this kind of thing to launch an air attack? The man stroked his slightly swollen hand in annoyance. With such thick armor, even if I use fire to roast it, I don't know how long it will take to roast the person inside to death. I have to think of another way. The man walked around the assault boat and suddenly thought, I should find where the door is. If there's only a door, then it's not a single body. Maybe I can use my ability to control electricity and stimulate the door to the assault boat to open the door. Thinking of this, the man immediately walked to the side of Ling Hong's assault boat that had already opened. He observed the position of the open door on the assault boat. It was because after the door of the assault boat was closed, it looked as if it had been formed into a single body. There wasn't even a single gap where the door should be. Therefore, it was very difficult to determine the position of the door just by looking at it. He needed to find an opened one to compare. Therefore, after the man confirmed the position of the door by observing the other two assault boats, he walked back to the assault boat that Li Anping was on. Looking around, the man finally determined the approximate position of the assault boat's door. However, he revealed an expression of not knowing whether to laugh or cry. This Li Anping is too unlucky. To think that the door landed facing the ground. It's no wonder that he can't come out. The man then smiled. Now, I only need to push the assault boat and expose the position of the door. Li Anping will probably come out himself. Thinking of this, the man took in a deep breath, and all the muscles in his body swelled up. I definitely won't be able to smash open this assault boat. However, if I push it, this assault boat weighs about 7 to 8 tons. Moreover, it's streamlined. Although it's stuck in the ruins, I should be able to push it. Thinking of this, the man's muscles swelled up once again, and power continued to accumulate in his body. However, just as the man's power had accumulated to the maximum and he was about to push his hands toward the assault boat, a terrifying tearing sound rang out. Then, under the man's disbelieving and panicked gaze, a pair of arms tore apart the exterior of the assault boat and reached out. How is this possible? The man cried out. Chapter 96. The man, who possessed the Kirin blood ability, and could wipe out a group of fully armed thugs within a few seconds, was now looking at the arm that was reaching out from the assault boat with a face full of terror. Li Anping reached out his arm, followed by his arm, head, chest, waist. When he came out completely from the assault boat, he reached his hand back and took out a rectangular object that looked like a sword case and carried it on his back. Right now, his entire body was covered in blue buffer fluid, and he looked very wet. Li Anping threw a glance at the man and did not say anything. It was as if he was looking at air. However, with just this glance, the man did not dare to move at all. He was like a sheep that had been targeted by a tiger. He felt that if he were to make any strange movements, he would attract a fatal attack from Fang Xinjian. What on earth is going on? This kind of pressure. Even His Majesty has never given me such a feeling. What on earth is going on? Li Anping. Who on earth is he? The man bellowed in his heart. Li Anping touched his hair. It was covered in a slippery buffer fluid, making him feel very uncomfortable. After waiting for over 10 seconds, all of the buffer fluid evaporated into the air. It was only then that he was willing to speak. He looked at the man and said, "Your ability is the Kirin blood? You're here to take revenge for Fang Qi?" When the man heard Li Anping say this, alarm bells rang in his mind, and he almost subconsciously retreated rapidly. Within a few tenths of a second after he retreated, Li Anping had already punched out at the spot where the man had just left with the sound of wind and thunder. With just one punch, the wind created by the punch had already blown away a large part of the surrounding ruins. Oh! Seemingly surprised by his own failure, Li Anping looked at the man in astonishment and said, "Tell me your name. I'll remember it." The man did not pay any heed to Li Anping's words. Instead, he ran desperately in the direction of the Qing Chan Palace. If it was not for the fact that his many years of experience in life and death had saved him, allowing him to dodge in advance, he would have been killed by the punch. Whether it was in terms of strength or speed, Li Anping far surpassed him, surpassing what was recorded in the data. What's going on? Is this Li Anping really the #1 energy rank? How can he be so strong? At the thought of this, the man sped up again. I'm afraid that only Qing Chan can deal with him here. The other 4 emissaries are not as powerful as me. Li Anping watched as the man ran for his life. In the blink of an eye, he was already more than 100 meters away from him. He sneered and said, "Stay." When Li Anping uttered the first word, he had already crossed a distance of 50 meters in a flash. When he uttered the word "down," he had already caught up with the man. The word "b" rang in the man's ears, and he was so shocked that his soul almost left his body. He couldn't understand how the other party could be so fast, and he couldn't react in time. It was because when the word "bang" rang out beside his ears, Li Anping's fist had already pierced through the scales on his back, smashing his internal organs into a pulp. Li Anping's punch had already surpassed the speed of sound. The man fell to the ground with his mouth full of blood and was gradually surrounded by a pool of blood. Li Anping revealed a dissatisfied expression. He had only wanted to knock the man to the ground. However, when his fist came into contact with the man's scales, it was as if they were made of paper and was immediately smashed into pieces. Seeing that the man was no longer breathing, Li Anping sighed. He wanted to ask who had sent him, but he was unable to do so. He could only leave. Looking at the information and map displayed on the contact lenses, Li Anping was still unable to confirm his current location. After all, he didn't have any combat experience, and this place was very big. He didn't know where to go. He asked through his earpiece, "Hello? Is anyone there? Does anyone know where Qing Chan is? Hello? Is there no one? Can anyone tell me where the target is? My senses are relatively weak. I can't sense them." No one answered. Li Anping could only ask again. It wasn't until the 3rd time that Du Jiao said angrily, "What the hell are you shouting for? I'm busy. Just stay where you are." Li Anping had no choice but to release his psychic energy to sense his surroundings. However, unlike the level 4 ability users like Shindong, Du Jiao, and Leng Hong, Li Anping, who was only at level 1, could only sense a range of 100 meters at most. There was no way for him to know where Qing Chan and the 4 emissaries were. "I'll find someone to ask." With this thought in mind, Li Anping listened carefully with his ears. Suddenly, the sound of strong winds could be heard from not far away. Li Anping walked in the direction of the sound. Meanwhile, on Du Jiao's side, he had already sunk into a bitter battle that he hadn't expected at all. His entire body was covered in dust and grime. His combat uniform had also become tattered, with all sorts of holes appearing on it. Meanwhile, across from him, something that looked like a stone golem was currently charging towards him. The stone golem was over 3 meters tall. Its entire body looked as if it was formed from pitch-black rock, and it was also emitting a layer of gray light. The stone golem's charging momentum was extremely astonishing. Although its speed was average, every step it took would cause a series of tremors. It was just like the Titan giant from ancient mythology, bringing with it astonishing kinetic energy as it charged towards Du Jiao. Du Jiao knew that this wasn't an ordinary stone golem. Especially after the opponent was covered in psychic energy, his stone body not only had astonishing defensive capabilities, it also had the ability to reflect shock. In addition to its terrifying strength and astonishing tonnage, it wasn't something that Du Jiao, who had a body of flesh and blood, could take on head-on. What Du Jiao didn't know was that this Earth Messenger's ability had reached level 4. After his body had completely turned into stone, he had even worked as a mercenary in the chaotic war between the various countries in the south. Relying on this indestructible body, he had single-handedly overturned an entire armored unit. He had once overturned an armored vehicle with his bare hands. He was also unscathed when he was hit by a C4 bomb head-on. Seeing that the opponent was charging towards him again, Du Jiao didn't dare to take it head-on. He directly used all his strength to leap backwards. At the same time, he spat out an invisible stream of air from his mouth. This was a highly toxic breath. Wherever the stream of air passed, small pits would be corroded on the marble floor, and some green potted plants would wither directly. However, this lethal attack, which was enough to kill most living things, didn't even leave a trace when it blew on the stone golem's body. After dodging the impact, the stone golem charged out like a tank. It only stopped when it crashed into the third wall. The stone golem, who was also the Holy Alliance's Earth Messenger, laughed arrogantly. "Idiot, how many times do you want to experiment before you understand? Poison has no effect on me. He can't corrode my body, and I don't need to breathe." After saying that, he charged again. Du Jiao dodged a little slower this time, and the golem's arm brushed past his chest. With a crack, it was just a little graze, but one of his ribs was broken. Although he dodged the fatal blow, the pain caused him to suck in a breath of cold air. Du Jiao half-squatted on the ground, looking at the Earth Messenger who had crashed into a house in the distance, and then looked around. The whole room had been surrounded by a red flood dragon, and on the head of the flood dragon, a red-haired man was silently looking at him. This man was the Holy Alliance's fire messenger. On the other hand, if one took a closer look at the red flood dragon beneath his feet, one would realize that it was a flood dragon made entirely of flames. But the heat of these flames was highly concentrated. Except for the flames themselves, everywhere else, the surrounding floor and walls, there was no trace of high temperature. Although this man did not take the initiative to attack Du Jiao, whenever Du Jiao wanted to leave the room surrounded by the fire dragon, he would be forced back by the fire dragon. In this way, he could only block the attack of the Earth Messenger and guard against the possible sneak attack of the fire messenger. This kind of suppression was even more powerful than a direct attack. The Earth Messenger, the Fire Messenger, they are all level 4 ability users. What is the intelligence department doing? The poisonous Jiao Jiao snorted coldly and tried to straighten his broken ribs. However, the pain made him take a deep breath. This can't go on. The Earth Messenger's ability can completely suppress my ability, plus the Fire Messenger's ability is very strong. They want to use the advantage of numbers to kill the strongest one first, and then kill the rest of the people. It's time to call for backup. If the 4 messengers are all this strong, then the original estimation of Qin Chan is completely wrong. The strength of the true God religion is completely out of our calculation. On the other side, Leng Hong had completely hidden herself. There were dozens of people who looked exactly the same as her, and they were constantly attacking the Wind Messenger. Unfortunately, the Wind Messenger's body was covered by a layer of high-speed wind. Ordinary guns, punches and kicks were completely useless against him. The Wind Messenger pointed his finger at one of the Leng Hong, and a fierce whirlwind instantly flew towards that Leng Hong. The high-speed whirlwind was strong enough to tear an ordinary person into pieces. That Leng Hong could not resist at all and was instantly pulled into the air. Another fake one? The Wind Messenger coldly looked at the many cold rainbows that kept jumping around. He thought, first, he used some kind of ability to control our people. Then, he covered the rainbows with his own power. Combined with the effect of his ability, he turned all the people under his control into his appearance. But you only have 45 people left. How long do you think you can last? Thinking of this, the Wind Messenger waved his hand again, and the vacuum blade that flew out directly cut Tu Leng Hong, who could not dodge in time, into 2 halves. His vacuum blade was invisible, fast, and abnormally sharp. Once, when he was fighting against the Special Forces of Xia, he had killed 12 Special Forces soldiers with 1 vacuum blade. No matter what armor, wall, or how they dodged, they would be killed in one strike. Seeing that the two people had turned back to their original appearance after they died, the wind messenger murmured, 43 left. Shundong was moving forward at full speed, but he suddenly stopped and hid in the shadows. Then, he saw two men walking out from the corridor. Let's make a sneak attack, we can't give them a chance to call for backup. Take it slow, we have to be careful. Thinking of this, Shundong controlled his own gravity and slowly floated towards the roof. When the two men passed by him, the gravity on his body suddenly increased, and he was smashed down like a huge rock. With two thuds, the two men's heads exploded before they could even react. Then Shundong did not stop for even a second. Like an arrow leaving the bow, he once again dashed towards where Qing Chan was. Every time he stepped on the wall, he would shoot out a distance of over 10 meters. I have to hurry. I have to kill Qing Chan and the 4 emissaries as soon as possible. I can't let Lianping have a chance to attack. However, after dashing for another few hundred meters, Shundong suddenly felt suffocated. It was as if he had dashed into a sea. Shundong felt that his body had been completely enveloped by a layer of psychokinesis. He immediately let out a low shout, and his entire body was forced to fall towards the ground. Then, the moment he landed, the gravity was reduced again, and he retreated backward. After taking 3 consecutive steps back, Shundong felt that the psychokinesis that had enveloped him had disappeared. He looked at the corridor in front of him in shock and bewilderment. What's going on? Was what I felt just now an illusion? Shundong stretched out his hand and extended a stream of psychokinesis. He once again came into contact with the vast ocean-like psychokinesis. The feeling of containing everything and containing all rivers in the sea was sensed through his psychokinesis, and it instantly shocked his soul. It was as if he was looking up at the starry sky. This was the feeling that the psychokinesis gave him. Chapter 97. Shundong looked at the tunnel in front of him in surprise. After hesitating for a long time, he slowly reached his hand toward the psychic chi. The world in front of him seemed to be half air and half water. The psychic chi was on the other side of the water. That earth-shattering yen chi completely wrapped around Shundong's hand that had reached in. Then Shundong released his psychic chi with all his might. He searched around the boundary of the psychic chi in front of him. It was boundless and endless. No matter how Shundong extended his psychic chi, he couldn't see the end of the opponent's psychic chi. The area behind the tunnel in front of him was completely covered by someone's psychic chi. Like a city covered by a tsunami, someone used an unimaginable amount of psychic chi to wrap the palace in front of Shundong. So it's like this. This Qing Chan. Where did she come from? I've never heard of such a thing. What kind of joke is this? Shundong looked at the area covered by psychic chi in front of him with an ugly expression. According to his measurement just now, the area covered by the opponent's psychic chi was at least 800 meters away. Considering that the opponent was a level 4 ability user, it was already very difficult to deal with him just by using the psychic chi to attack. Qing Chan should have noticed me just now. After hesitating for a long time, Shundong still didn't walk into the range of Qing Chan's psychic chi. It was too risky. The strength displayed by the opponent was completely beyond the description of the information. A few seconds later, Shundong shouted through the headset, calling for backup. The leader of the True God sect has covered the palace in front of me with psychic chi. I need air support. Roger that. Please report the coordinate. A few minutes later, the plane that had dropped off Lianping and the others appeared in the sky above the palace again. Then, it flew to the palace covered by Qing Chan's psychic chi according to the coordinates provided by Shundong. A gap opened under the cabin of the plane. 2 air-to-ground missiles slowly rose. They aimed at the center of the psychic chi. Then, with a flash of red light, The missile flew toward the ground at a speed of 800 meters per second. The two missiles hit the psychic chi enveloping the palace almost at the same time, causing a loud boom. The two balls of fire seemed to spread across the invisible barrier. Under the curtain of flames, the chi reflection layer that enveloped the palace began to tremble. Earth emissary was covered in a green liquid. Wherever the liquid passed, even the marble would be melted. They were all the venom spat out by Du Jiao. But to the messenger of the earth's stone body, this poisonous liquid that was even more terrifying than aqua regia had no effect at all. At this moment, a series of tremors came from the soles of their feet. They stopped attacking almost at the same time. Earth Messenger looked in the direction of Qing Chan in confusion. Unlike him, Du Jiao revealed a smile at the corner of his mouth. Your sect leader actually made himself into such a big target. It must not feel good to be hit directly by a missile, right? He had already heard Shen Dong's request for help from the headset. But the messenger of the earth didn't react like Du Jiao expected. Whether it was the earth messenger or the fire messenger, both of them just sneered at Du Jiao. At the next moment, Du Jiao's eyes opened wider and wider. He looked in the direction of Qing Chan and exclaimed in disbelief. At the moment when he was distracted, the earth messenger had already appeared in front of him. When Du Jiao realized what was going on, the earth messenger had already slammed into his chest. Du Jiao spat out a big mouthful of blood. His whole chest caved in. 38, 36, 33, 33 more. In the whistling wind, the wind messenger slowly took out a spear made of wind from his hand. The spear was like a small, slender tornado, drilling forward in a spiral shape. The high-speed rotating wind would pierce a hole in all the obstacles in front of it. In almost a second, the spear had penetrated countless walls and appeared hundreds of meters away. Along the way, 3 more Ling Hongs were shot through the chest and died. 30 more. The Ling Hongs did not stop at all. They were still moving around the wind messenger at high speed, using the machine gun in their hands to attack the wind messenger and looking for an opportunity to kill him. The wind messenger was also attacking with all his strength. He shot out wind blades and wind spears one after another, killing the Ling Hongs. He wanted to kill them as soon as possible before his wind shield was exhausted. One had a lot of people, and the other had a lot of speed and power. The battle was extremely fierce. The walls were destroyed one after another, bullets and wind blades were everywhere, and bodies were everywhere on the ground. Every few seconds another corpse would fall to the ground, dyeing the ground red. When the missiles in the sky hit Qing Chan's nihility, and when the ground shook violently, the two of them did not react at all, as if the air raid in the distance did not exist. Gunshots, wind blades, and the smell of gunpowder after the gunshots filled the whole room. In just a few seconds, 3 more Ling Hongs were torn into pieces. The attack and defense were still going on fiercely. The previous air raid did not affect the battle at all. However, when Qing Chan's nihility started to counterattack, the invisible and magnificent power rose up. Ling Hong also stared at Qing Chan's location in disbelief. It took only half a second for her to realize what a mistake she had made, but it was too late. Just now, except for the other substitutes, only her real body looked in the direction of Qing Chan. The wind messenger's voice sounded in her ears. "I've got you." The next moment, countless wind blades appeared around her at the same time, slashing toward Ling Hong's body. Blood suddenly filled her vision, accompanied by severe pain and a strange sense of weightlessness. Ling Hong slowly fell to the ground. When the violent vibration came from the ground, Shen Dong was already standing on the roof of a building more than 100 meters away. Shen Dong's face did not reveal a smile when he saw the intense explosion of the formless Nianqi. Compared to Du Jiao and Ling Hong, Shen Dong, who had personally experienced Qing Chan's nihility, knew better how powerful Qing Chan was. The nihility, which was as vast as the sea and as natural as heaven and earth, was definitely not something that could be defeated so easily. What happened next confirmed Shindong's guess. After the violent vibration, when the flames dissipated, the invisible nihility barrier was not damaged at all. Thinking of the unnatural vibration earlier, Shindong suddenly had a guess. Logically speaking, even the explosion of a missile shouldn't have caused such a huge vibration and spread over such a long distance. Could it be that this guy transmitted the destructive force to the ground through the vibration of the nihility? Just as Shindong was estimating the other party's strength, the nihility barrier changed again. A huge white hand, which was completely formed by nihility, rose from the palace and grabbed toward the sky. What is he trying to do? Not long after, Shindong understood what the other party was trying to do. However, he felt that it was even more unbelievable. The huge white hand shot toward the sky rapidly. As the nihility continued to grow, the area of the palace below that was covered by the nihility became smaller and smaller. Shindong's pupils contracted slightly and he shouted, "Get out of the way! Plane, fly away quickly! He's retaliating!" From afar, it looked as if there was a huge white nihility dragon flying toward the sky. However, the dragon's head had turned into a palm. Moreover, this was a terrifying scene that only aptitude users above the first energy level could see. That's right, it was terrifying. When the area covered by the nihility on the ground was only several tens of square meters, the huge white hand had already risen to a height of 10,000 meters, grabbing toward the plane in midair. No one would have thought that Qing-chan would be able to attack from over 10,000 meters away. The pilot was also an ordinary person and could not see the nihility attack at all. Therefore, there was a loud boom. The plane had been crushed into a ball by the white nihility hand. Then it turned into a burning fireball and fell toward the ground. Feng Jie looked at the small ball of sparks that exploded in the sky and laughed out loud. Right now, he had already revealed his original appearance. The wind escape that had been spinning on the surface of his body had already disappeared. He looked just like an ordinary dispirited university student. Right now, he was stepping on Ling Hong's chest and smiling proudly. Do you understand now? How great is the cult master's strength? It's not something that trash like you can deal with. Soon, the cult master will lead us to conquer the entire world. The glory of the true God will shine on the entire continent. Because of the massive bleeding, Ling Hong's face looked abnormally pale and weak. After hearing Feng Jie's arrogant words, she said in disbelief, "Damn it! How did he reach the 5th energy level? This bastard!" Bastard. Feng Jie stepped hard on Ling Hong's stomach. Her stomach made a sound as if it could not bear the weight. "Don't you dare insult the cult master!" Whoosh! Gusts of wind rose from Feng Jie's hand. The violently surging wind wrapped around his arm and formed an invisible wind blade. Feng Jie aimed his palm at Ling Hong's head. "Take your sins with you and repent in hell." Just when he was about to slash at Ling Hong, a hand ignored the wind blade on his arm and directly grabbed Feng Jie's wrist. Feng Jie tried to use force, but he realized that the opponent's strength was extremely strong and as weak as a rock. He could not break free at all. "Excuse me, are you Feng Jie from the Holy Alliance?" Li Anping's voice sounded beside the two of them. Chapter 98. Ling Hong, who was seriously injured, looked at Li Anping, who was standing in front of him, and thought to himself, "This idiot. He might have been able to survive if he had hidden well. But now, he is rushing to his death. It seems that we are going to be wiped out in the true God religion this time." However, before she could finish her thoughts, she saw that the wind messenger's body was once again stirred up by a storm. It's over. However, things were developing in the opposite direction from what she had expected. Ling Hong could only see a faint afterimage flashing past Li Anping's arm. The wind messenger's body stiffened for about 1 second, and then his head exploded like firework. Red and white liquid covered the surrounding floor, and some of it even splashed onto Ling Hong's body. Ling Hong stared blankly as Lianping threw away the Wind Messenger's body and then walked toward Qing Chan. Obviously, Lianping had also seen Qing Chan's attack. Wait! Wait! Ling Hong stuttered as he shouted at Lianping. He was shocked by the powerful strength that Lianping had suddenly displayed. Did he smash the Wind Messenger's head with his bare hands just now? It was too fast. I could only see a faint trace of it. How can he be so powerful? Are you kidding me? Isn't he only at the first level? The speed of that punch just now was even faster than that of Sun Hao, right? His strength was also much greater. And when did he appear? I didn't sense him at all. Just as Ling Hong was shocked by the facts before his eyes and his mind was in a mess, Lianping turned around and asked, "What's the matter? Take me with you. We should still have a chance to escape before Qing Chan arrives. The people in Tianjing must already know about the situation here. Reinforcements will probably arrive within 3 hours. If we escape now..." "I didn't say that I was going to run away." Lianping glanced at her and turned to leave. He then continued to walk in the direction of Qing Chan. "Are you crazy?" Ling Hong looked at Lianping in disbelief. "Don't tell me you want to kill him? Do you know that he's already a level 5 ability user?" What he didn't know was that Lianping was looking forward to eating Qing Chan, a level 5 ability user. If he could eat a level 5 ability user, his strength would increase explosively. And even if he couldn't defeat Qing Chan, Lianping believed that with his recovery ability and current speed, it shouldn't be a problem for him to escape. Hearing Ling Hong's words, Lianping stopped. Just when Ling Hong thought he had changed his mind, Lianping said something she didn't understand. "Don't interfere later, these 2 desserts are mine." But in the next moment, Ling Hong understood what she meant. She also had a deep understanding of this person's arrogance. A stone golem appeared, grabbing the poison Jiao's unconscious body. His huge stone palms could easily grab the poison Jiao's chest and abdomen. When he saw Lianping standing there without dodging, a cruel smile appeared on his face. "You heard it, he is taking us as desserts." A red dragon appeared behind the Earth Messenger. The Fire Messenger was standing on the dragon's head. He looked at Lianping and Ling Hong but didn't say anything. But when he saw the Wind Messenger's body, he paused for a second and then said, "Be careful, they killed Lai Feng. Don't compare me with that piece of trash." The Earth Messenger laughed out loud. "I will give this back to you first." He directly threw Du Jiao to them. Du Jiao's body was covered with blood and wounds. His combat suit was already in tatters, and he had completely lost his consciousness. When he was thrown to them, Lianping didn't catch him. He just let him roll to his feet. Ling Hong, on the other hand, mustered up her remaining strength and crawled over to Du Jiao. She took out medicine, syringes, gauze and other things from her combat suit and gave him emergency treatment. "Ha ha ha ha, a level 1 paranormal? Xia Dragonfinch even sent out such a rookie?" The Earth Messenger looked at Lianping and then curled his finger and said mockingly, "I will let you attack me however you want. You can punch me however many times you want." He laughed heartily and patted his chest, making a loud clanging sound. "Unfortunately, until now, no one has been able to break through my defense." "You talk too much," Lianping said coldly. "You can talk after you take my punch." Lianping couldn't be bothered to talk to them anymore. He stomped his feet and his entire body was like a bolt of lightning that tore through the night sky. In a flash, his black figure had already crossed over 50 meters and appeared in front of the Earth Messenger. Wherever his body passed, the air crackled and whistled, and a wave of air appeared behind him. The speed of this step had already exceeded the limit of what everyone present could observe. The Earth Messenger's eyes couldn't see or hear anything at all. This was because Lianping's movements were already faster than the speed of sound. He didn't have time to dodge, defend, react, or even think. Ever since he was born, he had never seen anyone who could train their body to such a level. The Earth Messenger was 3 meters tall. Lianping's punch just happened to hit his abdomen. At this moment, the air around him seemed to have been sucked dry. Lianping's punch directly hit the surrounding air like the center of an explosion. Rows of air waves spread out in all directions. This was an explosion of air with astonishing speed and power. The air was pushed away by this mountain-like force, forming a vacuum zone. The vacuum only lasted for a short moment. In the next second, the surrounding area would be filled with air again. Before this, Lianping's fist had already landed on the Earth Messenger's abdomen. The earth-shattering force, which was comparable to a missile bombardment, smashed into the stone messenger's stomach and continued to increase in power. The moment Lianping's punch landed, a large part of the Earth Messenger's stone abdomen immediately caved in. Then, countless cracks appeared all over his body. Boom! A huge force crushed through the Earth Messenger's body. His entire stone body kept making cracking sounds, and then the insides of his body seemed to be exploding. First, his entire abdomen turned into countless pieces of gravel and sprayed out. Then his chest, shoulders, neck and head were all shattered by Lianping's punch. Only the Earth Messenger was left looking at his broken body in fear. His heart was filled with regret and resentment. What did it mean to destroy everything? What did it mean to stop a chariot? At this moment, Lianping's action of blowing the Earth Messenger into pieces with one punch was a vivid demonstration of these two idioms. Although the Earth Messenger's body was strong and powerful, in front of Lianping, it was no different from an ordinary stone. After this punch, he looked at the Earth Messenger again as if he had done a trivial thing. He looked at the Earth Messenger as if he had just casually kicked away a small stone on the road. The Earth Messenger finally reacted from the extreme speed. His face instantly changed, and he quickly jumped back. The red dragon under his feet roared angrily, and its body was covered with flames. It opened its mouth and tried to bite Lianping. Boom! Lianping punched the red dragon into a cloud of sparks, and then he threw out another punch at the fire messenger who was trying to escape. Whoosh! A white shock wave was sent out from his palm, and it instantly caught up with the Earth Messenger. Facing this attack, the Earth Messenger hurriedly used his arms to block it. However, the powerful shock wave still made his arms numb. He felt like he was hit by a big hammer. His blood was boiling inside his body, and he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. But the speed of his retreat became even faster. Although his heart was also filled with fear and regret, the Earth Messenger still had a trace of calmness. He knew that he couldn't stop at this time. As long as Lianping seized the opportunity, he would definitely die. But no matter how fast he was, how could he be faster than Lianping? In Lianping's eyes, the Earth Messenger's speed was no different from a slow old lady. After throwing out another punch, Lianping took 2 steps forward and caught up with the Earth Messenger. He then threw out another punch. An ear-piercing explosion sounded. The Earth Messenger only felt a sharp pain in his chest. The protective chi around his body was shattered like glass, and his chest was directly punched by Lianping. After killing 2 level 4 ability users in a row, Lianping's physical fitness had become strength 6, agility 5, 6 and stamina 7, 4. Then he once again looked at where Qing Chan was. From the countless battles he had with Sun Hao, Lianping was basically sure that ordinary ability users below level 4 were not a threat to him. So when he looked at the 4 messengers, it was no different from looking at dessert. But the power that Qing Chan showed just now had clearly surpassed the level 4 ability user, and it was approaching the level 5 ability user. Even during the battle with Xia Laikong, he didn't use his full power against me. This time, it's a good chance to see how powerful the level 5 ability user is. If I can absorb a level 5 ability user, it will be even more helpful to me. Lianping's eyes flashed with a cold light. He believed that with his current speed and self-healing ability, even if he couldn't defeat a level 5 ability user, it wouldn't be easy for them to kill him. A few minutes ago, in front of the palace where Qing Chan was, when the large hand made of psychic energy crushed the plane, Shundong was rapidly moving in the direction of Qing Chan. Almost at the moment the plane exploded, he realized that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The psychic energy was used to form a large hand, and it reached 10,000 meters high to attack the plane. Right now, the amount of psychic energy around Qing Chan wasn't even 1% of his. Detection, attack, and defense would all be Qing Chan's weakest moment. It's very worth a try. Shundong laughed somewhat neurotically. Actually, it's easy to understand if you think about it. Ordinary level 5 ability users don't have such an exaggerated amount of psychic energy. This amount of psychic energy has never appeared even in Xia Laikong, the Flying General, Zhurong, or Song Bang. Qing Chan's ability must be related to his vast amount of psychic energy, and now all of his psychic energy has flown up. The strongest moment is also the weakest moment. Now is definitely my best chance. What if I can take advantage of this opportunity to kill a level 5 ability user? Thinking of this, Shundong's heart began to burn. Maybe there really is a chance. If I kill him, my position in Xia Dragonfinch. Shundong's body seemed to be weightless. He stepped lightly on the wall, and then he flew toward Qing Chan, leaving behind a series of afterimages. Along the way, Shundong didn't see any traces of the guards, either because Qing Chan had absolute confidence in him, or because of the true God religion's rules. Up until he saw the beautiful young man on the throne, Qing Chan herself, he didn't sense any psychic energy from the other party. My gamble paid off. Shundong roared in his heart. Now is his weakest moment. However, in the next moment, a white light flashed, and a strong smell of water vapor flashed in the air. Then, Shundong's chest spurted out a large amount of blood like a fountain, and he slowly fell to the ground. In Tianjing, Xia Dragonfinch's conference room had long become a mess. What's going on? When did Qing Chan become a level 5 ability user? Are the intelligence agencies all idiots? There's an additional level 5 ability user in the country, and no one knows about it. We must immediately send troops to suppress them. Send the 1st Armored Division over. No matter what, we must eliminate Qing Chan at all costs. Idiot, are you trying to get us killed? What do you think a level 5 ability user is? No matter how many ordinary people there are, they won't be able to pose a threat to a level 5 ability user, unless we use nuclear weapons. That might not be able to kill him. There were also some people who were panicking. Damn it, Qing Chan has become a level 5 ability user. Now we'll be attacked from both sides. The other ability user organizations in the country might also hit us when we're down. Have you forgotten how much effort it took to capture the Flying General? We can't use force to deal with a level 5 ability user. We need to outsmart them. Just as the bunch of bureaucrats were arguing endlessly, shirking responsibility, and panicking in despair, Song Bang sat in the center of the conference room, calmly watching the battle footage transmitted from the plane. He calculated in his mind, the opponent is a level 5 ability user. Shundong and the others have no chance of winning. I'm afraid they've already been wiped out. I just don't know if Li Anping was killed by the people sent by the Fong family, or by the people from the Divine Sect. Shundong and the others should have all sacrificed their lives for the country by now. Song Bang spoke slowly. His voice was very soft, but the entire conference room was silent. It was obvious that Song Bang's prestige was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Especially after Xia Laikong was seriously injured and unconscious, no one in Xia Dragonfinch dared to challenge him. Send someone to negotiate with Qing Chan. We can't fight on two fronts now. We can agree to any conditions temporarily. If we can get him to join our side, we can forget about the previous terrorist attack and the rape incident in the past. As soon as Song Bang finished speaking, someone immediately responded, "That's right. We should rope in a level 5 ability user." Speaking of which, the True God sect has a great influence in the country. It was too reckless to attack them rashly this time. We can give them some money or power. It's not a problem for him to spread the doctrine. Yes, the doctrine of the True God sect itself is still redeemable. That's right. As long as we lower our stance slightly, he won't be able to fight us to the death. After all, he has a big family and a big business. Even if he doesn't die, once he starts a war with us, the True God sect will be finished. Rope him in. Use power, beauty, and money to corrupt him. It's best if he can join Xia Dragonfinch. In an instant, everyone agreed and echoed loudly. It seemed that the joining of Qing Chan was already set in stone. No one mentioned the matter of going against a level 5 ability user anymore. It was as if the terrorist attack that happened the day before yesterday had nothing to do with the True God sect. In recent years, the True God sect had been interfering in Xia's politics and economy. No one mentioned it again, or it could be said that the senior officials present had deliberately forgotten about it. No one cared about the lives of Shundong, Lianping, and the other two people who had been sent. After all, in the minds of everyone present, compared to the value of a level 5 ability user, Shundong and the other two people were too insignificant. One of the officials suddenly said, "By the way, let's not admit to the people who were sent to attack this time. Let's just say that they acted on their own and put them on the wanted list." That's right. Anyway, these comrades have already sacrificed themselves. Why don't we make a contribution and just say that they acted on their own? Under Song Bang's tacit agreement, a few minutes later, a groundless accusation was prepared for Li Anping and the other two people. The emissary of the True God sect to be sent was also selected. It could only be said that when faced with the threat of a level 5 ability user, even these officials who were usually high and mighty became more efficient. Chapter 99. 12 years ago, in a dilapidated orphanage in Blue City. An old man with a head full of white hair looked at the little boy in front of him and laughed. The boy had short green hair, and his delicate face looked as delicate as a porcelain doll. But the coldness in his eyes was enough to freeze anyone who got close to him. Even so, he was still a cute boy. But when such a boy appeared in a room full of blood, broken limbs, and wreckage, he could not be called cute. "Ha ha ha ha, I finally found you, I finally found you." The white-haired old man picked up the boy. "It's you, Qing-chan. You are special. Don't feel afraid, don't feel hesitant, and don't feel guilty. Because you were born with the power to control their lives. You are a gift from the True God. From today onwards, you are the next leader of the True God sect." But no matter what the old man said, the boy's eyes were still cold. When he looked at his former companions on the ground, there was no change in his eyes. Day after day, year after year, the boy just stayed in the temple. He bathed in the hymns and was immersed in the prayers of the believers. There was no need to train, and he did not deliberately become stronger. He did not know when, but his mental strength had increased by itself, until it reached a terrifying level. The instinct to fight was as innate as breathing. Victory had unknowingly become a habit. Why was this the weakness of his opponent's ability? Why did he choose to attack at this time? Why did he choose to fight in close combat? Qing Chan never knew these things. He was just following his instincts. But from the results, his talent was unparalleled. What was his opponent's ability? What was his personality like? How could he resist it? Qing Chan could understand these things at a glance. But if you asked him why, he would not know. Just like a fish learning to swim and a bird learning to fly, everything was so natural. This was Qing Chan's battle, which made him feel the most bored. As he grew stronger, this feeling of boredom increased with each passing day. In only 2 years, his ability reached level 4, and he became the most powerful person in the True God sect. That year, he was only 8 years old. Qing Chan became more and more annoyed when she saw the fear in the eyes of the people around her. Then, he remembered what he had done in the orphanage. So he began the same thing in the Temple of Light. At first, there were only sparrows, mantises, and spiders. Then came the puppies, kittens, chickens, ducks, cows, and sheep. Qing Chan chopped off their limbs and watched them bleed to death. Their skin was peeled off and they struggled in pain. Qing Chan could feel a sense of tranquility from the bottom of her heart whenever she pierced their hearts with her dagger. But gradually, animals could no longer satisfy his bloodthirsty heart. Therefore, Qing Chan turned her attention to the humans. He still remembered his first target, Karma, the maid who took care of his daily life. She had a head full of golden hair, supple skin, and a pair of plump breasts. Qing Chan could still remember the fragrance of the shampoo on her body. She was so beautiful that Qing Chan couldn't help but want to tear her apart. He tortured Karma for a whole night. Then he dismembered her body and spent more than 3 hours flushing small pieces into the toilet. Then Qing Chan got even more out of control. More and more people went missing, and the entire Temple of Light was in fear. In the end, when the former hierarch caught Qing Chan, he was peeling off the skin of a little girl's body in his basement. "Your Majesty! Your Majesty!" A series of shouts brought Qing Chan back to reality on the throne. He looked at the 2 people on the ground. "Your Majesty, should we execute this villain now?" "Kill him." Shundong lay quietly on the ground, his body covered with his own blood. Looking at the woman standing in front of him, his eyes were full of seriousness. The woman looked very young with long black hair. Her snow-white face and slender body made her look docile and docile. But Shundong knew that this feeling was an illusion. Looking at the woman's still wet right hand, Shundong thought to himself, "Was that a water knife just now? Then this woman is the water commissioner." The woman standing in front of him, or rather the water commissioner, looked at him and said, "Look at you, you still don't want to give up?" At the same time, she raised her right hand again and shot out a water line from her palm. The water line was very fast and gradually became thicker. It became a high-speed water knife. The water of the water knife shot out for more than 50 meters before it gradually dissipated. Shundong narrowed his eyes. The effective lethality is about 20 meters. After 20 meters, it shouldn't be able to break my defense. But within 20 meters, feeling the faint pain from the wound on his chest, Shundong didn't act rashly. Seeing the water commissioner moving the water knife toward Shundong's neck, the smell of water in the air became heavier and heavier. "Stop." Suddenly, Qing Chan on the throne said, "Yes." The water commissioner didn't have any questions. Almost at the same time that Qing Chan said this, she put away the water knife. Shundong could even feel the coldness of the water around his neck. He looked at Qing Chan in confusion. Qing Chan also tilted her head and looked at Shundong and said, "I've already observed your ability with my psychic energy before. You can control your own gravity, right? This can be seen from your movement pattern. When the water knife attacked you just now, you actually changed your own gravity in an instant and avoided the fatal attack, right? The reason why you've been waiting there without moving is to find an opportunity to attack the water commissioner and me, right?" Everything has been seen through. Shundong was shocked. My movements have been completely seen through. Under the gaze of Qing Chan's glass-like eyes, Shundong couldn't help but feel goosebumps all over his body. It was as if he was being watched by a god in the sky. It gave him a feeling that there was nowhere to hide. Although the water knife of the water knife is very powerful, because of the flowing characteristics of the water, she can't feel what is being cut. If she had used an ordinary sword to cut you just now, she should have known that she didn't really cut you. Ching Chan continued, to be able to use the opponent's characteristics to organize an attack in an instant. I admire your observation and action very much. What do you think? Do you want to be my subordinate? What? Shen Dong was surprised by Ching Chan's words. On the other hand, the water commissioner seemed to have known that Ching Chan would say this, and the expression on her face didn't change. Don't you understand? Although you were waiting for an opportunity just now, you must have the confidence to seriously injure or even kill me, Ching Chan said, but that's just your delusion as a mortal. Although you're very smart, you still don't understand the gap between us. When Shen Dong heard this, he suddenly felt that there was a layer of something covering his body unknowingly. Ching Chan's chi had been withdrawn from the sky, and once again filled the entire hall. That enormous psyche chi was like an ocean that enveloped Shen Dong, causing his heart to gradually sink. Do you understand now? Ching Chan held her chin and looked at Shen Dong on the ground, saying, other than surrendering and dying, you have no other choice. Shen Dong stood up. Since he had been seen through, there was no need for him to pretend anymore. The water knife of the water commissioner just now had only caused him some superficial wounds. Although he bled a little, it didn't affect his strength much. But even so, when facing Ching Chan, a level 5 ability user, especially after losing his only chance, he couldn't summon up the slightest bit of fighting spirit. Just as Shen Dong was hesitating, a voice suddenly came from the earpiece. Is anyone there? Please immediately report the current situation of the True God Religion's headquarters. I'm here. A woman's voice came from the earpiece. Shen Dong recognized that it was Ling Hong's voice. Ling Hong continued, we need backup. Ching Chan is a level 5 ability user, and Du Jiao and I are both seriously injured. We need to be treated immediately. You're still alive? The other person's voice seemed to be very surprised, and then there seemed to be all kinds of quarreling sounds coming from the other side. Just as Shen Dong didn't know if he was going to talk in front of Ching Chan, another man's voice came from the other side of the earpiece. This person's voice sounded older and steadier, as if he had been in power for a long time. He said, those who are still alive, immediately surrender to the True God Religion. What? Ling Hong still wanted to argue, but the other person said directly, this is an order. Those who are still alive, immediately surrender. Remember, don't do anything to annoy the other side. I repeat, this is an order. Shen Dong sneered. He understood that he had already been abandoned by the higher-ups. Speaking of which, how could a few normal ability users compare to a level 5 ability user? He actually didn't think of such a simple logic. Yeah, a level 5 ability user's new backer. He pulled out the earpiece and threw it on the ground. Then, he knelt down on one knee in front of Ching Chan. I'm willing to become your subordinate. Good, Ching Chan said lightly. But this time, Lai Feng, Da Di, and Hui Yen are all dead. If you're the only one who surrenders, we still don't have enough people. Shen Dong took the initiative to say, I can persuade my teammates to surrender. Is that so? But you have 3 teammates, while there are only 2 vacancies for the 4 emissaries on my side. Ching Chan said with a smile. Chapter 100. Ling Hong didn't know what to do when she heard the order from the headset. At this moment, the poisoned Jiao that had just been rescued woke up. You still don't understand? We've been abandoned. Du Jiao looked at Ling Hong with a bitter smile. He took out the headset and crushed it. It's a new level 5 ability user. It's a good deal to use us small fries to please him. Then what do we do? Are we really going to surrender? We've killed a lot of their people. They won't let this go. Ling Hong's mind was in a mess. She panicked when she thought about how her backer was gone. She had been protected by Xia Dragonfinch all year round. She had worked in the government all year round. Compared to her own strength, she trusted her backer more. Now that she had lost this backer, it was as if her backbone had been taken away. Just as the two of them didn't know what to do, they realized that Lianping had already left. At the same time, he took out the headset and contact lenses in his ears and threw them on the ground. Lianping, where are you going? Leng Hong looked at his back and shouted. Lianping didn't even turn his head as he said, I'm going to find Qing Chan, are you crazy? Leng Hong roared. However, Lianping didn't pay any attention to her. He just kept walking. He knew how strong he was. He had enough confidence in his battle with Qing Chan. Even if he couldn't win, he would definitely be able to escape unscathed. However, the other two clearly didn't know this, because until now Lianping hadn't used his full strength in front of the two of them. He clearly wasn't interested in explaining this to them. Leng Hong quickly stood up and ran towards Lianping to pull him back. However, Du Jiao grabbed her from the ground. Where are you going? If he wants to die, let him die. We don't have the time to care about him right now. Among the three of them, Du Jiao was the most seriously injured. Naturally, he hoped that Leng Hong could stay by his side to take care of him. Moreover, he was unconscious just now, so he didn't know that Lianping had single-handedly killed the three envoys of wind, earth and fire. Therefore, Leng Hong explained to Du Jiao on the ground, he saved us just now. If it wasn't for him, we would have died long ago. He killed the wind, earth and fire messengers all by himself. What did you say? He killed it alone, the poison flood dragon asked in shock. How is that possible? I was already helpless against the rock body of the earth messenger. How did Lianping do it? He's actually that strong? In the next moment, a series of questions flashed through Du Jiao's mind, but he felt his hand loosen. Leng Hong had already run towards Lianping. Wait, Leng Hong. I still have a question for you. Leng Hong looked towards Du Jiao. When he saw the other continuously sending him meaningful glances, the tacit understanding between the two of them over the years allowed him to immediately know what the other wanted to do. Leng Hong walked back, using his hand to touch the other's forehead. Against ability users of the same level, this was the only way he could let his spiritual virus parasitize them. Meanwhile, the spiritual virus parasitized on Du Jiao's body transmitted the other's voice. Hello? Leng Hong, can you hear me? Leng Hong's ability not only allowed him to control others, it also allowed him to communicate with the parasitized target's consciousness. I hear you. What do you want to say? Why did you have to choose this time? We'll be on the road in a while. For now, help me up first. Let's quickly catch up to Lianping. No, you can carry me. It'll be faster this way. Although it felt a little strange, the tacit understanding they had over the years still allowed Leng Hong to carry Du Jiao on his back. However, when he looked up, Lianping had already disappeared. He must have gone in the direction of Qing Chan. Let's follow him. We have to be quick. Okay. After saying that, Leng Hong ran in the direction of Qing Chan. At the same time, Du Jiao's voice rang out in his mind. Are you sure that the wind, earth, and fire messengers were all killed by Lianping? I saw it with my own eyes. No, although I couldn't see his movements clearly, it was indeed him who did it. On average, it didn't even take 2 seconds for each of them. Hiss, Du Jiao sucked in a breath of cold air. After fighting with the Earth Messenger, he deeply understood how terrifying the other party was. That mountain-like strength, as well as a body harder than a tank's armor, Lianping actually took less than 2 seconds to kill the other party. If the person who said this wasn't Leng Hong, he would definitely laugh at the other party for being whimsical. No wonder he always looked so fearless. This guy's strength is indeed very strong. Who knows, he might even be stronger than old Shen combined. After Du Jiao sighed, he said regretfully, but his luck is too bad. It's too early for him to encounter Qing Chan now. Yeah, too early. Leng Hong also sighed. As a member of Xia Dragonfinch, she also deeply understood how terrifying a level 5 ability user was. Their abilities were incomparably powerful, their bodies already exceeding the limits of humans. From a certain perspective, they were indeed no different from gods. In Xia Dragonfinch, there had long been public opinion that only a level 5 ability user and a nuclear warhead level ultimate weapon could kill a level 5 ability user. Even though the current Lianping was extremely strong and also had great potential, possibly becoming a level 5 ability user in the future, at least right now, he still wasn't one. That was why there was no way he could win against Qing Chan. At this time, Du Jiao's voice sounded in Ling Hong's mind again. If Lianping wants to seek death, we can't stop him, but we might still have a chance of survival. What do you mean? Ling Hong was confused. We can surrender. What? Ling Hong stopped moving, saying angrily, You want us to surrender to these traitors? Don't tell me you have a better idea? That is a level 5 ability user. Right now, the northern front line is so tense, General Xia is seriously injured and unconscious. There is no way His Highness will start a war against Qing Chan at this time, against a level 5 ability user, Du Jiao said. Ling Hong said, We can escape. Go and pull Lianping back, we can escape together. Escape? Where would we escape to? Du Jiao said with a bitter smile. A level 5 ability user is just a few hundred meters away from us. You also saw him use his qi to attack the plane. Do you think we can escape? Even if we escape from here, do you think there will still be a place for us in Xia? We will be wanted by the entire country. Xia Dragonfinch's methods of dealing with traitors, you are as familiar as I am. But, Ling Hong was speechless. She knew that Du Jiao was right, but she still found it a bit hard to accept. Could it be that we won't die if we surrender? After killing so many of their people, they will torture us to death. It doesn't matter if they are small fry. The 3 emissaries of wind, earth, and fire were all done by Lianping. Du Jiao said with a bitter smile, This is our only chance. Xia doesn't want to fight another level 5 ability user. Could it be that Qing Chan wants to face the remaining 3 level 5 ability users of Xia Dragonfinch alone? If we surrender, he might very well accept it. After all, compared to Lianping, we didn't kill a single emissary. We are more familiar with Xia Dragonfinch's inner workings, we know more information, and we are more valuable to Qing Chan. Ling Hong struggled and said, You want me to betray Lianping? He just saved me. This isn't betrayal, it's just that when the 3 of us are about to die, he is using his sacrifice to preserve our lives. Hurry up and leave. Lianping might have already met with Qing Chan. I fear that something unexpected will happen if we are too late. Under Du Jiao's urging, Ling Hong carried him on her back and ran towards Qing Chan again, only her eyes were still filled with struggle. Meanwhile, in the main hall, Shundong looked towards the direction of the main entrance. Waves of footsteps could be heard from there. It felt like someone was running towards this place. A few seconds later, the main entrance darkened. Lianping already walked out. His expression was calm as he swept his eyes over Shundong, the water commissioner, and Qing Chan on the throne, as if there was no difference between the 3 of them in his eyes. Meanwhile, this type of gaze made Shundong, who had just betrayed him, feel even more unexpectedly displeased. At this time, Qing Chan's voice sounded again. He is your companion, right? The other 2 will be here soon, but I only need 2 people to fill the positions of the 4 emissaries. Who do you think should be removed? When Shundong heard this, it was as if he had heard heavenly music. Seeing Lianping's puzzled gaze, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up slightly. Your Majesty, this person is called Lianping. He has some strength, but he is arrogant and unruly. He is the most unruly and undisciplined. In Xia Dragonfinch, he has repeatedly contradicted his superiors. Moreover, he has not been officially approved to join Xia Dragonfinch. He has almost no intelligence value. Other than having some strength, he has no other merits. At this point, Shundong finally revealed his purpose. Therefore, your majesty can kill him. As for the remaining 2 companions, I believe they will be very willing to join the divine sect. So that's how it is, Qing Chan casually glanced at Li Anping and said, do you have anything to refute? This is bad. Shundong was shocked. He hadn't expected Qing Chan to play such a trick. Wasn't this asking them to kill each other? To betray each other? He subconsciously glanced at Qing Chan. When he saw the ridicule in her eyes, he finally understood. He doesn't care about us at all. This man is completely playing with us like toys. Whether he kills me or Li Anping, it's all the same to him. Thinking of this, Shundong started to panic. At the same time, Li Anping's reply rang out. I'm not interested in what you're saying at all. Li Anping looked at Qing Chan and asked, you're the current leader of the True God Church, Qing Chan, right? That's me. Then there's no problem. I'm here now just to see who's stronger between me and a level 5 ability user. If it's possible, I'll kill you. After Li Anping finished speaking, he exerted force with his feet and directly stomped out a large hole with a diameter of 5 meters. He had already appeared in front of Qing Chan. Then, he waved his right hand forcefully and smashed it over. Then, as if an invisible barrier had appeared between the 2 of them, there was an explosive sound, and a blast of air appeared between him and Qing Chan, sweeping through the entire hall. Shundong looked at Li Anping in disbelief. He hadn't expected this person to actually start a fight with Qing Chan as soon as he arrived. Did he know that Qing Chan was a level 5 ability user? She was a monster that surpassed humans. But at the same time, he let out a sigh of relief in his heart. This way, Li Anping would definitely die. Sure enough, after the smoke and dust dispersed, Li Anping's fist appeared 1 meter away from Qing Chan. There seemed to be ripples that kept appearing around his arm. It looked as if the ripples had bound Li Anping's fist, preventing his fist from moving forward an inch. That was Qing Chan blocking Li Anping's fist with her psychic energy. How dare you! Seeing this, the water commissioner shouted angrily. A high-speed water blade shot out from his hand, chopping towards Li Anping's position from more than 10 meters away. Wait a minute. Qing Chan waved her hand, and the endless psychic energy in the air scattered the water blade. She looked towards Li Anping, revealing a curious expression. The entire space of the Great Hall should have been covered by my psychic energy, yet you were still able to get so close to me in an instant. If it wasn't for me increasing the output of psychic energy around me at the last moment, I really might have been touched by you. Qing Chan laughed. She looked at Li Anping and said, to be honest, you are the first person I've seen to be able to do this purely through physical strength. How about it? Do you want to be my subordinate? I admire you quite a bit. Not interested. Li Anping said word by word, at the same time slowly retracting his fist. However, the movements that were normally incomparably easy were now abnormally difficult. Li Anping felt as if he was soaked in a pool of cement, each of his movements able to feel resistance from all around him, making his speed and destructive power decrease by countless times. Li Anping immediately understood the power of a level 5 ability user. Seems like I'll have to use my full strength. Meanwhile, when Shundong heard Qing Chan's words just now, he was still given a fright. However, when he heard Li Anping's reply, he instead calmed down. The evils you bring upon yourself are the hardest to bear. Even in front of a level 5 ability user, you are still so arrogant. Li Anping, you are courting death. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.